2, 1.
Hello, welcome to Plat Chat Overwatch. It's episode 134. I just want to preface this by saying this is a ludicrous episode. I don't know the twists and turns it takes from here. If you're watching it live, you're experiencing it the same as me. I only path forwards chronologically through this battle we call time. But just looking at the shit that happened this week, it's absurd what's going on in the Overwatch community. And throughout it all, I'm being guided through this tempest by Custa, Avast, and Reinforce. How are you all?
Good. Chat,
Brilliant.
at one point we're going to run a poll, just giving you forewarning, about you're going to help me pick my entryway table. So...
I mean,
Read up on your
point-
IKEAs.
I'm gonna link-
an entryway table? Like, what's
It's-
the requirements for that?
Well, it's kind of like a side. It's like, you know, walk in and there's like, if you have you put a little table there where you put your keys and like your, you know, like a bowl for your keys.
you know,
and, like,
those
some
tables
yeah,
are
okay.
just to
snacks and
fill
pictures.
space. They're just, you have too much
Yeah.
space in your house.
Well, I mean, right now it's not. Well, it's for an apartment, A, and B. I mean, there's just a giant blank spot on the wall where there's, you know, cat
On the
toys and
wall?
stuff,
Are you having a
well,
wall
not on the
table?
wall. Not on the wall, you know, where it's going to be up against the wall. So I'm just letting chat know ahead of time that perhaps we'll run a poll, but also at the same time, I think that's going to detract from the episode if we do a furniture decor moment. So
We can
maybe
do it in the
don't.
break. We've got a little break in
Yeah,
the middle
maybe
of
in
the
the break.
episode. We can talk about your furniture. Run
There we
people
go.
around IKEA. I hear Jonathan's an expert.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they ask me to come over and judge the furniture, rate it 1 to 10 as a Swedish person. So it's a bit of a side gig I got going on.
I love
That
the
sounds like an
idea of that just
HGTV
being your side
profession.
gig.
It's just like he rates furniture on the side. She weaves butterfly nests. They have
have
$500 million budget.
They
for
have
a
a
house.
they have a meatball certificate that the meatballs have to be of Swedish quality, and so they constantly get Swedish people to come to their stores and test the meatballs to make sure that they're of sufficiently high quality.
I can't. I mean, that sounds like a lie, but you know, it could be true. Different cultures, you know, they do
How would you
different
think
things.
about it?
They do different things. First of all, I do want to apologize, Jonathan, because I saw you tweet at us last week when we were. The title of the episode last week was, "Is this a good decision?" And we have a whole episode about you getting engaged. The titles of the episodes are not supposed to apply to literally every topic. Let's
Okay,
start there.
okay, all right,
yeah.
all right. So what was it about? Was it actually not about my engagement?
No, that was
I
like
hope not.
75% of it.
Okay, got it. Yeah, all right. So we're on the same page.
Yeah, but we came to the idea that it was a good decision.
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, all right.
It was just
It was
clickbait. It's just clickbait.
Yeah, get people
Oh,
in to
clickbait.
then
Oh, I see.
counter
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad
Is this
yeah.
really a good decision? Should Jonathan have spent more time having the single life? We talk about this.
Can't wait to
Okay.
see the Reddit conversation about this one.
Yeah, well, I think the actual conversation we had last week was about free to play and talking about that kind of stuff. But it was all basically just an amuse-bouche, a little tickler for the taste test, because essentially we had this massive live stream coming on what was it, June 16th, I think it was, where
Last Thursday?
they said you will not want to miss it. It's a massive deal. They dropped a ton of new information. They went onto the Overwatch League, well, not the entire thing, but some portion of it onto the Overwatch League show as well. You got to sit down and talk with them. I think it was the first time this week that you all got into the truck as well together.
Oh yeah,
Woo,
one
6
day.
weeks in.
Huge, amazing.
We did it.
So I want to start with Connor. Because, Connor, you've talked before about your problems with the live streams. Oh, the communication breakdowns. Oh, they're not delivering us the sweet juice in the way that we want it. You must have been satisfied with this.
Oh, I was so satisfied by their sweet juice on this one. Definitely. This one was a lot better, I'd say. I mean, they fixed all their issues. It was a nice pre-recorded thing where it felt the pacing was good. And they delivered the information available to them. My only complaint was that it was hard to figure out where, like, there was like one particular piece of information that I could not find. I can't remember what it is at this point because my brain is a jello.
But
But
you wouldn't. It was a piece of information you couldn't find. By definition,
well, no,
you're not
but then
going to remember
I
it.
ended up finding it. You know,
Oh.
it was like how do the signups work? But then I realized that like people are just dumb. You got to read like further down into the Blizzard website. So It just wasn't like, you would think if they had done the live stream, they would have also shown like, here's how the signups work, you know, for the next beta. But other than that, I think it was perfect. That's like a very minor, like nitpicky thing. Like overall, this is how they should be communicating information. Very well, nicely done, pre-recorded. You can tell that everyone's a lot more comfortable. And then like you have plenty of room in between, like you have 3 to 4 minutes at a time where you can just put corporate buzzwords in between all the actual information, and like it's great. And like that's it. And it's good. It was good. It was a great live stream, I think. Or not live stream, but reveal.
Can we talk about these cuts though? Like, I was so uncomfortable with like I agree with Avast. Everything in it was good, but like the editing of it, I'm no professional filmographer, but we got like slow panning shots and then like instant cuts, and I'm like, well, this is a lot right now for a dev live stream. I don't know.
They're adding into the production value. They've got a smooth panning shot. They're adding some life into the broadcast. And Custa's like, don't like it. Use static cams next time.
It's been too long. Maybe I just wanted something stock standard, something simple, because like it was just look at this sweeping shot of Zoe, and then like I don't know. It's just too much movement.
What's wrong with that?
I get it.
Movement, too much shooting.
I get it. I totally get it. It's too much.
Do you not think that's a bit...
Thank you.
Custa,
That's the one I was trying to prove.
We've gone through the fucking desert. It's been 40 days and 40 nights. It's been 40 years. And we come out the other end. You arrive at the promised land and you go, nah, it doesn't really look up to scratch for me. No, I don't like the way that the houses have been designed. No, all of the beautiful manna from heaven is actually, a bit salty, isn't it? A bit salty.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too much, you know, like it was good. It felt like I've been waiting for this like dinner for my entire life, and it just missed the mark. Obviously all the content was good, but
that's the most human
the
thing I've ever
production.
heard.
Come on, guys.
Also, did you guys see there is a scene in this one where I'm pretty sure there is someone eating on a microphone in the background while Jeff Goodman is talking, and you can actually hear someone chewing while he's talking.
That's my kind of production. Everyone always complains I'm chewing into the mic.
that.
That's me. That would be my job on the set. I'd be the guy chewing into the mic.
Where's someone pissing in the background? We need. If this was a Plat Chat production.
Where's the piss? If this was a Plat Chat production, I think the long panning shots as well as because with each reveal in the future, they're gonna give a bigger couch to Aaron Keller. So the long panning shots will then reveal that it's a longer and longer couch each time. They're gonna start with the smallest couch, and then they're gonna get bigger from there.
What was the thing?
I'm just saying, don't get used to this, okay? Don't get used to this. I know it's all fancy and like we're super excited. This was a big stream, okay? Don't get used to it. We're going to return to the webcams and like 80% dead space on the entire live stream and no what cameras whatsoever.
It doesn't have to be fancy though. It doesn't have to be.
Good.
Get I'm just saying, people will be like, "Oh my god, they cut their budget. They're not doing like the fancy camera shots anymore and the heavy editing and like the camera angles. They're not doing that anymore. Overwatch is a dead game." It's like, okay, this was a one-off, guys. Okay, and we'll be happy it was there. Just take a look at the entire production, like the editing, the lighting, the setups. Like this shit ain't free. Like they paid probably a good amount of money, I don't know, to like make this happen in the first place. So you know, don't get used to it.
I'm gonna further agree with Scott. The thing is about this, like the panning and stuff, it's like no one asked for this. People, all we wanted was gameplay and information on the future.
Thank you, Kurt.
Like it is cool that they have like a really high production set. But it didn't add anything to the broadcast.
It's brand building, okay? They're trying to build like a precedent.
It's brand building, but they're not going to do it again. You're telling everybody not.
Well, I think the reason is
somewhere in the middle. Okay.
I think they pulled out all the
look at the neon lights. We can have some neon lights. We can't have all of them, but a couple. You know, get a lightsaber in there. Or
After
something.
this, they're gonna put Scott Mercer and Aaron Keller in like a bunker, and they're just gonna talk to a webcam. But the thing is, I'd be fine with that too. I don't really care about production quality that much. I honestly don't give a shit about that. You could put them into a cell, a holding cell, and they could talk directly to a 480p webcam. And as long as they give me all the relevant information, I'm fine. Like that's
okay, I'm over this. I'm so over this. We can't keep memeing about this.
Let's move the fuck on from talking about the panning shots and shit.
Instead of
talk about the actual
Stockholm
content
syndrome. This is
of
some
the
COVID
announcement.
syndrome. People are just used to broadcasting from home. No, screw this shit.
What part of the live stream?
About as well.
What part of the information, Connor? You're saying they could be locked in a cell and deliver them the information. What part of the information? Let's talk about the roadmap, actually, Kurt. the Overwatch 2 roadmap in general. So they're moving to a seasonal model. They're releasing stuff like that. They announced Junkerqueen. They announced kind of the different plans for adding new modes and adding new maps and stuff like that. What part of the overall announcement most gives you hope, excitement? Do you like the new setup of where they're headed in the future for Overwatch 2? Overall positive, and if so, which parts are the most positive?
I was gathering my thoughts. I was just gathering my thoughts. I thought someone else was going to jump in, you know. But I'll say the most positive for me is that they've committed to a seasonal model, a model where they said, guys, every X amount of days you will receive content, and here is also the amount of heroes you will receive a year. Like, and also like a general roadmap of like, here's our, you know, they didn't say it on this exact roadmap, but during the event reveal, I believe they committed to like it's like a new hero every it was like 2.5 months.
It goes
or something.
It goes hero then map then hero then map, and the seasons are 9 weeks long.
9 weeks. Yeah. So like they pretty much committed to like what the old model kind of used to be, which was like 3 heroes a year. They've said like you're continuing to get 3 heroes a year. You're gonna get new content, and also we've released like actual cool monetization options of like which people want, like customizable skins, the mythic skins.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a great addition. I think that's like getting great cosmetics is the key to making a free-to-play model work. And having something that's even customizable, especially for your characters where other people can see like your character and see that's cool. That's a great thing. So I think all of that it's promising. It just feels like we're on track to be, you know, kind of like a relevant, you know, just a relevant dev cycle essentially. And like that makes sense in the current era of games.
Yeah, I agree with Connor. The big complaint that I saw a lot of people coming out with was that they're like, well, if we add up the time that we've lost of the last 2 to 3 years, we should have 7 heroes on release or something like that. If you're expecting them to give your time back for the last 2 years, you're absolutely insane. It's over. They stole the 2 years from your life. Like we're gonna get to October 4th, and then we're gonna start again. Okay, and then we're gonna hopefully have a cycle. Yes, it sucks looking back in the past, but we just need to appreciate the future. And I agree with Connor. This is the best path forward. At first I thought 9 weeks was 3 months, and that was too long. And then I realized I was stupid, and that's only like 2 and a bit months. Incredible. So I think that's a perfect amount of cycling where it's enough maps and heroes to keep it fresh, but it's not too many that it can feel overwhelming. And I actually had that issue when I went back and played Valorant for the first time like a few months ago, and there were so many new maps, heroes, all that kind of stuff. It's actually so daunting when you release content that fast. It becomes very difficult to come back because there's just so much new shit that you just feels like you're out of the loop.
Also, it's not like Valorant to just like drop like a normal, you know, Counter-Strike kind of map. It's just like, no, we're going to have 5 bomb sites and 2 different levels, and there's going to be rail lines. You can just like rail across the entire map and just like ship what's away. Like the Valorant maps are super complex. It's like I go into a map and I'm like, Jesus Christ, what am I in? Like, is this like the Doctor Strange dimension or something? Like I'm lost in the sauce.
I think it's pretty good. I think the timeline that they've committed to here is going to be keeping the game super fresh and making it feel like there's something new all the time. It seems good.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I agree with Scott as well. Like you can't just have too much stuff dropped it all at once. If Overwatch wants to rebuild its player base, it needs to be over like a long duration of time. It's not like Overwatch 2 is going to drop and it's going to be the newest hot shit. It's going to be like the highest watched game on Twitch. It's like, no, that's delusional. Like we're not going to get like a massive increase in player base just because they're dropping 3 new heroes and 6 new maps. And like, it's not going to revolutionize the way Overwatch exists as it currently is. It's going to give, you know, some returning players, but the thing we need to strive towards is over time building that player base. And that can be like, you know, looking at metrics like every month, like how does our Twitch viewership look like, you know, month over month, season over season. These seasons are what, 2-3 months? They're like how many players want to queue up like every 3 months for a new season? That is the important question. So it's not about having Overwatch 2 come out with this like big bang and just like on the release date October 4th, and that's going to change everything. We saw already what happens with like even the drops for like the Overwatch 2 beta. People just like got super stoked. What was the live viewership was like over 1 million or something. I forgot this point. But then it like immediately dropped off. And so like it's not about just like having one big day or one big week for the game. If we want Overwatch 2 to return to like the glory of 2016, 2017, it needs to be over a prolonged amount of time. And so it's not about the first stage, it's about every season, up in season, getting more content and content.
That's absurd, isn't it? That is just ridiculous.
And that's not what you want. Like, I don't care if you celebrate like that milestone. It's like
that is also just the dev stream, isn't it? Yeah. That's not even the that's not even the peak up to 1 million or whatever. Yeah. Is that one? No, that's still between 22nd of May. I mean, when was the other one? Oh yeah, there it is. It just dwarfs everything else.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I mean, in any ecosystem, it's probably not the best to have like one gigantic spike on the graph and then everything else is flatlined, generally, and whether it be any sort of system. So,
a heart, the beating heart of Overwatch,
an economy. You know, it could be like everything. Like, so probably just not the best to have it that way. So yeah. I think you can make the argument that like I think also the interesting thing too about like, well, it's not going to be a huge spectral on release is that also they've confirmed that like PvE stuff is not happening at all until 2023. Like no PvE stuff is occurring. Which I think would be one of the big drivers of like potentially getting the game. I think the PvP stuff is big enough to where it's like, oh, it'll be good and be revitalized and like potentially we can build towards like a very healthy ecosystem again. But like the PvE stuff is like kind of like the game changer for like how does it Overwatch operate within space a bit. And it's not even happening until like 2023. So it's kind of interesting to see like what that decoupling is going to be like and what happens when PvE actually is unveiled, I think. So
does this change the discussion that we were having last week about kind of the run up to October 4th? Has this live stream adjusted how you're thinking about that?
No. I think it sort of goes back to what I was saying of the fact that they haven't said how long the beta goes for at this point. Like, I'm pretty sure the information's not out there.
I haven't seen it anywhere.
I think if they were planning on running it all the way till October 4th, they would have said it. Or if it was going to be a really long time, they would have said it. I think with them not saying anything about the duration of it, I don't think it'll last that long. It'll probably be around the same duration as the last one, you know, a few weeks to a month. And then it'll probably come down to October 4th if I was taking a stab in the dark.
But this announcement was large enough, I think, to give people something to latch onto for that date and look forward to, which is absolutely necessary if you don't have the game to be playing all the time. Building anticipation is a must, and I think they did a pretty good. I mean, we haven't even talked about the Junkerqueen stuff in terms of the cinematics and building hype in that sense too.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think if you were going to be... it didn't really change much from anyways, because if we're already in agreement, like, well, we don't want to drop everything at once, it's like, I don't really understand, like, why we still... If October 4th is early access anyways, why would we not have just, like, started, like, this June 28th beta as, like, the early access, you know? If it's all early access,
they're not ready with the content. I mean, they've promised certain amounts of content for October 4th, right? Presumably that still needs...
Well, they've also promised that for June 28th, some content, too, which is fine, right? Like, June 28th is, like, supposed to be, like, when Junkerqueen, I think, arrives, and... That's when like cross progression for consoles, which is why people said we need to refresh the beta potentially, was like the backend systems for like the cross progression need to be tested, which I think is perfectly valid, you know, after hearing that idea. But, you know, if you just had Junkerqueen and then they said they're going to release potentially one more hero by like on October 4th, which is like the rumored support hero potentially, then, you know, there's not a ton of different reasons to not necessarily, you know, do it in my opinion. But I get if it's like, oh, content fatigue, you don't want people to walk away, right? But it's a tough call. I just don't see, like, if you're already going early access, there isn't really like a definitive line to be like, we can't.
We don't have to rehash the same discussion we had last week. I'm just wondering if hearts and minds were changed by the announcement, but we're still stuck in our bipartisan lines here, huh?
And I will not compromise. I'm dug in.
July 18th is apparently the end of the beta, so about 3 weeks.
Oh, so it has been announced. All right. Okay.
Apparently it's hidden a little bit, but it is out there.
Right. Okay. Fair enough then. So yeah, Custa's on point with his analysis of their marketing schemes. Let's talk Battle Pass. It is a overly controversial topic in gaming, I think. It's almost as if people like the loot box model for some reason. But okay. Overwatch 2 Battle Pass. We saw some sneak peeks into how it's going to work. Battle Pass models in general. Do you think this model makes sense for Overwatch? They've also announced this kind of paired with their mythic skin idea too. So it's not like it's the same ecosystem that the Battle Pass is just being thrown into. The skin ecosystem within Overwatch is going to look different because there's now like a whole tier above of holy shit, these are dope, like customizable cosmetics where you can like change pieces of them or something. I don't exactly understand how it's going to work.
I think it's a chroma, right? Like you would have in like Valorant or League of Legends. It's a mythic skin that you can change like the basic colors of, right?
But these
like,
are
so
really different. Like normally, if you get
chroma.
if you get a skin, you can change like, I don't know, some of the tones or something. But these are, I don't know, these look very cool and also radically different from each other. They almost look like different skins, some of them.
I think that's super important as well for the future of the game. One of the biggest issues with the loot box model and where we are right now is that I don't see a single skin in the game when I play and be like, oh, that's cool, or that's unique, or that's different. Like, everyone pretty much has the same set of skins. So even if there is a super sick skin, everyone has it. So it doesn't feel, oh, well, like most people have it and it's not a unique thing. So it doesn't feel like you're ever showing your identity in a cosmetic. And I think that is the big reason of why Valorant is so successful, League of Legends is so successful, is there's so much customization that it incentivizes you to buy more and put money into the game and stuff like that. So I think the direction they're going with, especially, the gun buddies, the weapon skins, the mythic skins, all that kind of stuff, great direction. And for the Battle Pass, if you don't like the Battle Pass at this point, you just haven't been playing competitive games in the last 5 years. Like, this is the model. It doesn't look like Overwatch 2 is reinventing the wheel. It looks exactly like every other Battle Pass you've seen from any other game. So my one thing that I really like about some Battle Passes that I hope that they introduce in Overwatch 2 is you get the currency. If you finish the Battle Pass, or you get most of the way through the Battle Pass, you get the currency that you spent on it. So it incentivizes you to play the game and keep playing the game. And if you do that, you'll get all your money from the Battle Pass back, which will then allow you to reinvest it into the next Battle Pass. So it's this endless cycle of, if you're playing the game, you don't have to keep putting in that money for the Battle Pass. And I think it's more important to have people playing the game consistently rather than just putting in that $10 that one time.
Yeah, people should be incentivized to play the game.
One of the things that I've seen people get bothered about with Battle Passes is that they don't want to... why is the game forcing me to do some crazy challenge in order to win a skin? I just want to play. I mean, the Overwatch model at the moment, it's not like the loot boxes were terrible. If you played enough, you eventually just got everything, and you got duplicates of like 7,000 things anyway. But yeah, some people, especially people who have full-time jobs, which none of us could relate to. I guess Connor, actually, you're a working Bob businessman.
I'm a working man.
You're a working man. You work a 9 to 5, stuck in a cubicle.
I show up with my pale lunch and sit on top of the construction buildings and construction like the minute work. That's me.
Let's be clear, you don't do that. You're soft.
No, I do.
Your soft lily white hands have never done a day's work in their lives.
No, my hands are grizzled like bear paws from all this typing is what it is. Actually, no, distinctly one time when I went to see family, like I think one of my like great aunts was just like, you have soft baby hands or something is what she said to me. So
what was my point here? That some people who don't have enough time don't like these models just because they reward the people that have infinite amount of hours to spend on the game in order to actually get the stuff out of the Battle Pass at the end of the day. But I think what people don't appreciate when they come up with arguments like that is that when a game is free to play, it needs an effective monetization model that isn't shit for the community. And the Battle Pass, as far as I can see, across all games, is the best model that does that. There just doesn't seem to be a model that works better than this, both for developers and for consumers as well. It's a good middle ground.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Battle Pass, right? This is what we asked for. It feels weird to like celebrate all these announcements from Overwatch 2 because it's nothing revolutionary, and it's pretty much what we asked for. Like, it's nothing about the content being released either. They were just like,
wow, they're revolutionizing the gaming industry with the way they're doing maps. It's like, no, this is what we wanted. We wanted the heroes, we wanted the maps, we wanted the Battle Pass, because this shit works.
like it just works, and we've been needing it for a long time. So, you know, I don't understand if people dislike the battle pass. It's clearly like the superior model. You know, tying it into like free to play as well. Like we just need more players, and we need battle pass, and we need people to keep playing the game. So I don't know. I don't really have a take. It's like we talked about this for like 2 years, and now it's finally coming, and I'm pretty excited about it. Pretty stoked.
Yeah. You think it falls in the kind of necessary bucket rather than the excitement bucket? It's just like, yeah, this had to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're essentially just celebrating that it's finally arrived. You know, it's just it's required.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Let's talk Junkerqueen then. And before we get onto the topic about Junkerqueen as well, we are live, and we are going to run some polls and ask you guys for some questions at some point during the episode too. But we do also, this time, okay, I know we told you this last week that we had Super Chats enabled, and we were going to talk to you a little bit, but this time we actually do, and we're not lying to you. And so if you're interested in getting in on the discussion, if you send in a Super Chat and it's additive to the discussion, I want to point that out as well. It's not like... himbo hat or whatever. As long as it's something additive, we will have a discussion or at least incorporate you into what we're talking about too. Junkerqueen though. Even before we talk about Junkerqueen being OP, because I do want to have that discussion about how she actually plays, I want to talk about a bit more of the cool aspect too, because they've fleshed some more of that out. You can now see that her abilities are accurate to the leak that we were discussing a little bit last week too. So just talking about the cool factor in terms of backstory, anticipation for this character, how the abilities work. This looks dope. I mean, as long as she's not a wet fucking noodle in the server, I think people are going to be very excited to play her.
She seems like a very fun hero to play. Like, as you said, if her numbers are low, she's just going to go in and die and not kill anyone. But you know, we don't know. Like, it's impossible to make that distinction. If she plays how you assume she's going to play, where she's getting in people's faces, she's trying to be like a high damage, high speed, bleeding melee character, that sounds super fun in a game like Overwatch. So I'm hella down, but it's hard to judge it when you haven't seen the numbers, as Josh said.
You're watching it right now. Look, she's very overpowered. She's killing everyone.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's not
so true. I honestly thought the cinematic, her like power glove, I felt like her power glove thing where she can just like magnetize fucking everything is way stronger than anything else that her kit apparently shows. Like, where's the ability for her to become just like fucking what Magneto? Like, where's that? Where's the Magneto ability where you could just yoink the iron out of people's bloods? That'd be so much stronger than shooting them. But overall, like, I think it's really cool. I have some concerns about her kit though, from like just like a where she stands perspective, because historically, characters without shields have needed some other way to live. And it seems like her answer is like she has Rallying Cry, which she runs really fast and gets a health boost. But she has no other mobility. So she can't go vertically. She's just running on the ground like a normal person. So I'm just interested to see like what exactly, like, to me she fits pretty squarely into a rush comp style when you see how she plays in like the brawl. And she has like some other like disruptive abilities, but I'm just interested to see like how exactly does she fit in an Overwatch 2 environment, especially where like, let's say for example this meta where Zin's so strong and you're playing like Brig Zin and like you're trying to play into the Brig Zin with this character, and like the Rallying Cry probably I'm assuming has like a 10 to 12 second cooldown, because if it doesn't she's just going to be sprinting like Usain Bolt over the map. Then like I don't know how you're going to close the gap. It's going to be interesting.
Well,
yeah, that was my take as well. My take as well, actually. So I'd just like to follow up on that.
Yeah,
that was completely what I thought as well. It's like, oh my god, this is an amazing hero, so much fun, great abilities, can't wait to play her. But I'm also just like, what's her identity? Like, how will she actually play? And like the honest answer is that none of us know. Okay, we can speculate, but none of us know how she's going to play. It's just so hard. But I had the same concerns. I was just like, there's no shield. Like the reason why rush compositions work is because you can use Reinhardt's shield to actually mitigate damage before you reach your target, and then you can start swinging, and that's when you get dangerous. Is she just gonna run up to the targets? It's like at that point, she's essentially like the way Atlanta Reign played Doomfist in like the kickoff clash, where they're just like waiting for the perfect time to go in, because once you're in, like you're committed. It's not like she can disengage out. And like, how do you even walk up in the first place? I just think a lot of teams, the way they're going to play around there is just like disengage, play, Winston or whatever, and place a Winston bubble, and she'll be able to be dealt with. I don't really see how she engaged in that way. Like, if you want to see her played, maybe you can do it on like Control Center Lijiang, because that's literally like the closest kind of round we ever have. But yeah, I have a hard time seeing how her kit will actually get used in like a very high level play. But if you're talking about like numerical values, then yeah, I mean, you look at some of these abilities and you're like, yeah, if she, one-shots people with her Carnage, swing your axe, then yeah, maybe she's meta because she's overpowered. But when it comes to the kit and her abilities, I don't really see it.
If you one-shot someone with the axe, you wouldn't do any wound damage and you wouldn't get any self-heal. You'd just kill them immediately. So
well, that's a wound.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it depends on how the mechanic works, right? Because like,
do you like the knight in
instantly?
That's like the knight in the Monty Python movies that's just getting chopped to pieces. It's merely a wound. It's
it's merely a flesh wound.
Yeah, well, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't looked at these abilities, overall, it seems like her identity, at least from the developer's point of view, is that she's supposed to skirmish, brawl, do damage, and then self-heal via her wound mechanic. So it's a damage over time. It's a bit like Ash's fire from the dynamite, or Anna's got. I guess it's much more like the dynamite, though, probably. And any damage you inflict with that damage over time becomes self-heal. But yeah, she's going to have survivability because of her commanding shout, is that what it's called? Which seems a bit like the reactive shields on Wrecking Ball, where you can pop them, you gain a lot of extra health, and so if you're anti-naded or something and you can't continue to self-heal, you can still give yourself an extra 200 HP to work with. But you don't have any of the mobility that Wrecking Ball does, which is part of his survivability, is his mobility. You can fuck off if someone's trying to kill you. So it seems like she's missing something in terms of being able to actually permanently skirmish.
For me, she reminds me of, I'm going to throw a League of Legends reference in here. She reminds me of Tryndamere, because it feels like you're either going to be able to go in and kill everybody, get all the health sustained, and just live through it all and then just melee everyone to death, or you're going to go in and die. I think it's going to be very hard to find that balance, and I think when you can play her is going to be very subjective to the compositions that you're playing against and how good your team is at diving, because I don't think there's a middle ground where you're going to be able to do what Doomfist is going to do. As I think it was Johnny was talking about, where it's like you can go in and then you can disengage. Like, I don't think
I don't know what I watched.
Yeah, exactly like this. Yeah. Exactly this.
Is this Arcane?
Yeah, exactly. This is Arcane. Jinx is coming soon. But yeah, it's just like it's just. Thank you, God. It's just like, I think it's a very all-in character, and I don't think because there's no disengagement, you're just gonna go in and it's either gonna work or it's not. I think you're gonna have. If you thought pinning in Reinhardt's so bad, I think this hero is going to take that to another level of just like inting in and then hoping your team can follow you up.
Actually, I've changed my mind. I'm sorry, I interrupt you again, Sideshow, for the second time in a row.
That's fine.
I've changed my mind. There are some dumb fucking players in the Overwatch League. They're just going to get baited by this character and just like, oh, it's no problem. I'll just check this doorway and there she is. And she's just going to absolutely annihilate them. So yeah, actually, some teams are going to make it work because there are other players that are stupid enough to get baited.
Well, so I mean, that's like, so but that, to me, that's what you're implying is that she's no longer a tank character. She's an assassin. And she sits in a doorway and waits for you to pass. And just grabs you and just annihilates you then, because
I mean, you don't have a lot of other options.
Yeah, what else are you gonna do?
That's like not. But that's not a good. That's not necessarily a good like space creation tool, right? I mean, I think also the thing we're ignoring too is that she does have a passive ability too, where she heals. They've essentially given her a passive along with her lifesteal to where she heals, called Adrenaline Rush, as you can see.
Yeah, but she has a shotgun and an axe.
Oh, it's by wounds.
Yeah,
never mind. That's
wounds.
It's essentially just a passive.
I misread that entirely. I thought that was a new ability.
Well, the Jagged Blade, like the throwing knife, also wounds people. So
it does wound.
All the blades, and then you heal.
Not the scattergun. But I don't believe the shotgun wounds. But also, what if? So this hero looks really weak to Anna's anti-nade. What if anti-nade doesn't affect the self-heal? Would that? I mean, that would. I don't know why it would work like that. But if it did work like that. She's suddenly much more powerful, isn't she?
I think that's like taking away her counters, right? Like that's like she needs to have counters in her own right, because like that's the thing of where I was saying is like a fine balance of balance. If you make it so that she doesn't get purpled or she just like can always heal, she could end up just being overpowered. Like how do you deal with especially with the 200 HP adrenaline rush?
she's very weak to poke because she has no real gap closing and no shielding. And she's going to also be weak to any kind of CC as well, isn't she? Like,
if she gets into the backline, how do you stop her? Like, if you take away...
How is she getting into the backline? She running there?
Maybe she's just a brawl counter.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just a rush counter. Like, if you're playing London Spitfire and they're just, like, stacked with London, with Reinhardt, like Lucio, May, whatever, maybe you can, like, swing your Carnage axe and, like, actually hit, like, 3 people with wounds. Maybe then you can adrenaline or rampage... all across like the enemy Reinhardt team. Like maybe she's a brawl counter, but I don't see her being a
useful if we see the numbers associated with her damage.
Yeah,
I would love the numbers of like her damage, because to me that idea actually is an interesting idea, but I don't know if like would she just straight up lose if like her and Ryan, if you block him in the gulag, who wins the melee fight, right? Like who wins that fight? Like what's the damage?
I mean, she has a self-heal. It must be her, surely.
It must be her in terms of that, right? But like also like I'm just talking about like in general melee, like if you're taking fights, right? Like yeah, she's healing more, but maybe Ryan's doing more damage, and like what if he builds Shatter really quickly or something? Like what's her ult percentage generation? Like there's a lot of factors there where I would love. Been a complaint for mine for a long time in Overwatch of like we should be able to just see the numbers.
If you also, I mean, if you look at they have released the numbers for Commanding Shout, and it gives. If you imagine all of her team being grouped up, she's increasing her health by 200, 4 players around her by 100 as well. So that's a 600 HP buff for your team. You could kind of think of that as being like a 600 HP shield that's like, you know, at the front of a brawl comp. It doesn't really work the same at all, but there is going to be some potential to gap close, I guess, with the movement.
I think all the use cases where you can use Ryan, you can use her, essentially. Anytime that you can use Ryan, you can use her.
But you can't
potential.
walk up behind a shield.
No, but if you use a May, if you just use it, people use May all the time for rush comps. Like you can have your May. Like if you have a Lucio to where you're even faster. Like imagine, I'm wondering if the Lucio speed stacks with the commanding shout speed, and then the
Fox speed.
And then you
Lucio,
get the Fox
commanding
speed.
shout.
And then if you get all 3, you fucking rip a hole in space time, and then you exit it to another side of the map. But like I think there's like potential.
The comp is dive with Junkerqueen, and the clip of me saying, "How does Junkerqueen get into your backline, Scott?" And it's just played over many different things of her Usain bolting into the backline. Yeah,
I see her being good for what Ryan's used though.
Do any of you play Final Fantasy 14?
I have.
Because we had a super chat from ZA who said, she reminds me of Gunbreaker character. Is that accurate? No? You're lost? You're lost in the sauce then?
I haven't played enough Final Fantasy for that one.
Gunbreaker. Oh.
All right, well, there you go. There you go. Unfortunate. We also had one. Oh, this is Gunbreaker. I mean, if I can't understand League of Legends,
what's going on?
Zero chance of me understanding this.
Well, is this a really tall pillar or a very small person?
A very small person next to a also relatively tall pillar.
That's a fire hydrant-sized pillar. That gives you an idea of how tall the person is.
And it's a tank character that has a sword. Those are the similarities.
Oh, okay. So kinda, I see it.
So
very cool.
One thing we didn't discuss though, what about the comparisons to Roadhog in this game? They've got like some magnetic, pull kind of idea there. Shotgun in one hand, no shields, gonna be brawling, has something to increase their effective HP, heal. Is this just essentially
better Roadhog?
Not even better. Is this just another Roadhog that will never get used in fucking solo tank?
No. She's so much more useful than Roadhog. Yeah. Roadhog is a vestigial organ of a hero currently. He is the appendix of Overwatch. It's not good.
Is it just a speed boost?
She's going to be really strong. Yeah, I think she's think about you're playing New Queen Street, right? And she just flanks through one of the alleyways and she ends up in your backline. She has her overheal for 200 health plus 30% movement speed. If you're like a backliner, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you stop her from just running at you, meleeing you? Like, if she hits you with the dagger, you're pretty much dead at that point, right? She's going to pull you in, she's going to shotgun you, she's going to bleed you, and she's going to get health back. Like, I think it's going to be maps where you can get close to people, like any rush map like we were talking about. I think she's going to be a problem to deal with.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I think she's just better than... She just has one similar part of Roadhog's kick with arguably better survivability because she can get like constant heals from her wounds. And also on top of that, like she has
she has the rush where she gives help to her and her allies plus the speed. Like her kit's just overall better, and she's gonna be good where Ryan's good. And who knows, with map design and like some new heroes, potentially you can alleviate some of like maybe the new Fox character makes jump pads, and you can like and then but think about it though. Wouldn't that be a fucking cool idea if finally we get some like we can actually make like. Then you could make characters like Zarya and like Junkerqueen or Reinhardt work on maps where there's high ground and like you just make jump pads, you know? Like I think that's been something I've been wanting since like 2019, 2018, something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe even earlier. So I think there's like a potential for other hero synergies to work. And then like Custa said, like anything that's a rush map currently, she will probably be pretty good.
Yeah, I've just got to take a moment here to rinse one of our viewers for their lack of understanding of physics. Archwiz sent in a super chat saying, will she have an emote like Sigma's Maestro? Gravity equals magnetism, question mark? I mean, those are different fundamental forces of the universe. Those are vastly different fundamental forces. I mean, you couldn't get more basic than gravity and magnetism are working differently there. So
I can't see either of them. So I mean, how do you know?
Yeah,
sure.
True, Josh. How do you know?
Well, as the only American on the show, it does make sense that you're the science skeptic. So,
well, once again, I'm just following for what Insane Clown Posse said. Magnets, how do they work? Okay, I'm just following how they work. I'm just asking questions.
I'm just asking questions. Yep, and not listening to any of the answers. None of the answers.
No.
Jonathan, you had originally posed an idea. Who would be some top Junkerqueen players? If you could think of anybody that would play Junkerqueen and pop off on this hero, who would it be? Are there any names that even come to mind? Obviously, we don't really know how she's going to play, but is there anyone you're excited to see?
I think the first one that comes to mind is actually Reiner. I feel like Reiner is just like he's one of my new favorite main tanks, I was going to say, in the league. Like, he can just play everything at a really high level, and the Gladiators is a really smart team, so I think they'll actually find a way to utilize Junkerqueen, like, in a really good way. So I just have complete confidence in that Reiner will be able to unlock this hero and do a pretty good job at it. Just like Reinhardt with extra steps, like charge in, go in, you know? So yeah, I think Reiner is my first pick.
I think that leaves Hottie. If you're going to put Reiner, you got to put Hottie in there.
Yeah.
You got to put Hottie in there because I got to say, London, their rush is clean. Their rush is clean.
I'll say this. This is complete nonsense, and it doesn't mean anything. And it just shows my absolute, like, this is just nonsense for me. But when I look at how, like, generally when I spectate like Reinhardt players, I can put myself in their shoes, and I'm like, this is what you should do as a Reinhardt. Like, this is, you know, this is the ability you should use here. This is like their habits. Like, what is their shield management habits? What is their swing time habits? Their, you know, like, how do they shatter? Like, some Reinhardts, they like jump and shatter. Other, they like they have like a specific way at a specific time they use the shield, like before they shatter. Like, I can see this. But Hottie, he just does whatever the fuck he wants. Like, I don't understand this Reinhardt player. He's just unique. He's one of one. Hottie is the most unique Reinhardt player I've seen, because I spectated him and I'm like, dude, he's like diamond, but he just makes it work in such a fabulous way. He's beyond my level. I will fully admit that Hottie's Reinhardt is so good and complicated that I can't wrap my head around it. It's like jazz. It's amazing.
Hottie is the jazz musician of the Overwatch League. Okay.
That's fantastic.
But it's like metal jazz.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Pulling us back a little bit, I actually don't think she's going to play as much like Reinhardt. I think she's going to play more like the current iteration of Doomfist. So I think Doomfist players are going to be better. I think it's all going to be about understanding your windows, plus the skill shot of the dagger. I think that's going to be super important. I think that's going to be like the crux of like what makes you a good Junkerqueen player. So I actually think like Dante and like Hawk and that kind of stuff. I think off tanks might deal better with this kind of hero than main tanks, but you know, that's just me throwing fucking random.
Don't you think
shit
it's
in
a
the
little
wind.
weird that Outlaws would put Dante on it, considering the only reason he plays Doom is just because he's played so much Doom in the past?
It's the most Houston Outlaws thing they could ever do as well. So
Okay, fair enough.
he's going to be Dante's going to be their Junkerqueen, Doomfist, 2-trick tank / tracer player.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's just like, I just think she just doesn't have any, like, because she's not going to work like Sigma. I could see the Doom comparison working, but the problem about the Doom comparison is that I feel like Dooms are just so much more mobile that like they can accomplish a lot more than she can in terms of like making space for your team and like putting pressure on different areas of the map. Unless your goal is they're not even ever helping your team and their whole goal is to flank.
I think that's what she's going to be. I think she's going to be moving around the map, trying to hit people with daggers and isolate one person, kill them, and then use the overhealth and the speed to run away, or like that kind of stuff.
I could see that.
Cathcat with the super chat says Bumper would have been the number 1. I miss Bumper.
I miss Bumper too.
Holy shit.
Bumper. Do you know there's a it would have been really good. There's a GOAT's alignment chart that got released.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a very good chart.
Actually, can we take a tangent here to just go through that very basically?
Oh my God.
Do you remember where I saw Jonathan retweet
I know where.
It actually tested my brain. I went through each one. It was so well made. It actually does have a different opinion in each of the boxes.
I'll put it into the Plat Chat Overwatch channel, Kurt. And
there it is.
You got it.
Oh yeah, you already got it. Perfect.
Okay, this really is a test of purist level. So starting from the top left, it's just traditional GOATs is GOATs. Everything else is a lie. I find myself either the one... No, I find myself in the one below this. Sombra and Winston GOATs are still GOATs, even though it's not triple tank, triple support with the Sombra. Even if it has a Winston in it, in my opinion, that's still GOATs. But once you get outside of that, I'm sorry, I'm not on board. I mean, what the fuck is this middle one? Tracer Sombra dive with 2 supports is GOATs?
Yeah, that's definitely not GOATs.
What?
I mean, but it's a 6-man rush, though. It's a 6-man rush, though, which is where the argument could be made. It's like, well, it works the same way, but it actually... The problem is it doesn't. It just doesn't work the same way. So...
let's do them in order. Like the bottom left one with the Atlanta Rain, the bottom left one.
I don't remember
when did
that
they even play this?
ever being
Dogman
played.
Moira, Erster, Ana.
That is a disgustingly awful comp.
Yeah, it's actually... What does it do?
That's just awful.
It's horrendous.
Baby Bay Sombra?
When did they play this? I mean, it's got to be season 2
it was
at some point, right?
It was definitely 2019 because they were playing triple support.
7-9. 2019.
It's 2019. They had Dawko. It's triple support. Dogman's on the roster. It's
That's like third stage. That's when everyone gave up because they knew 2-2-2 was coming. So everyone was just doing whatever the fuck they could to win a map or win a match. So that everyone just went off the goop.
I mean, that is just
that is not good. That is sadly not GOATs.
Can we agree everything on the bottom row is not GOATs? Can we just agree?
Wait, let me look at everything in the bottom row again.
Okay, no, but the San Francisco Shock playoffs comp, that it played very similar to GOATs.
The playoffs comp,
it's not the same.
It
is not the same thing. It is not the same thing as GOATs, but it played very similar. It was all about just like playing as a fucking unit and just never dying.
The Reaper was flanking every fight. That's not GOATs.
Into the backline, and then they come together. Yeah, it's not the Reaper is the diva. Like that's sort of the way you have to think about it. Like
well,
the Reaper,
and also if the Sombra counts in the other comp, then the Reaper should count in that comp.
But it's Reaper and Doom. It's Reaper and Doom and Orisa and Sigma, none of which were played. But the thing is, the Doom. You should imagine that Doom is essentially working the same way as like another tank in this comp because you're just what are you talking about?
Now the New York comp, on the other hand, on the right, is definitely not GOAT. New York comp is definitely not GOAT.
Well, no, of course it's not.
That's just double shield.
Fucking Farah Bastion, of course it is.
Classic Rush is not GOATs either. Like it's just not. It doesn't work quite the same. I mean, arguably, I could say if Classic Rush is not GOATs, then the Shock comp is not GOATs.
Yeah, I think we agree that they aren't GOATs. I think anything. Here's the thing. I think GOATs, in my opinion, is just triple support, double tank. I'll give you Sombra GOATs, and I'll give you like 1 DPS switch, but like. For the most part, I think the triple support is what embodies it, of just like a giga amount of healing that will never die.
I think you also have to have a Brigida in there for the triple supports, though. I think it's almost a Brigida and a Lucio are almost always required. The other supports up in the air.
When Shock was playing BAP instead of Brig, because they did that for a while.
That was still GOATs. Yeah, that was still GOATs. I agree with Connor. Actually, that's a good way to submit.
Because the thing is, the Atlanta Rain comp is doo-doo dog shit nonsense. Like if the Lucio, Moira, Ana doesn't make any sense. Like you have to have the Brigida and you have to have the Lucio because the Lucio is obvious and the Brigida allows you to get like rallies and packs for your like flanker DPS or like certain tanks or even for your supports. Like you need to have the Brigida in there. I think the other support though is up in the air.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean that is just shite. I'm just looking at that.
I found the comp.
Of all the comps on here, I'm most offended by the Atlanta Rain shit. I mean, the fact that the caption is just this Atlanta Rain shit as well is just insanity.
I put it in the live chat, Kurt. This is the VOD, all right? So Erster is actually playing Ana, and it's on Volskaya against the Shanghai Dragons. So I can't find the Moira thing, though. Moira might have just been to get back to the point.
We've also lost the plot on this one. I'm not gonna lie. We've gone from Junkerqueen to like the GOATS analysis. And to be fair, this is a very good topic, but it's just this is not GOATs.
They started on normal
Zin,
GOATs.
Ana, Lucio. That's not GOATs. Though.
Why don't they play Brig? Do they like the Ana biotic?
Maybe because for
Volskaya,
Volskaya, I think Volskaya they have two. Yeah, they have two high.
I would
ground.
argue this is still. I would argue this is still a GOATS comp. It's triple tank, triple support. You're just changing your utility on the support heroes for the map because it has such long sight lines.
I agree, it is GOATs, but it is shit. So I agree with the chart.
But that wasn't the comp. The comp was
problem
with the
is it doesn't
fucking
work the
Moira
same.
and a Sombra.
But it doesn't. But this doesn't work. It doesn't work the same either, though, because without the Brigida, you can't effectively. You simply can't as effectively like isolate or pocket certain like players. Like obviously you can get orb and get the extra damage from the orb, but like the Brigida is what allows you honestly to brawl.
Yeah, but this
GOATs
comp
was fucking awful.
Kurt,
dude.
go to 1450 in the VOD. Go to 1450 in the VOD.
what a tangent we've taken here.
I mean,
I
we've
just
gone
had
the
to
goop,
see
but
this.
this is an insanely interesting topic. It is. It's an interesting topic, though.
It's just madness.
I had to see it. Here it is.
Oh, here it is. For
So
a final
Erster just swapped to Ana. He swapped to Ana when Shanghai are at 99%, and they're playing Moira, Sombra, Ana with
They
Winston
won
back.
this round. Oh no, they won the team fight. They won
one team fight with it. He's played it for like 2 minutes.
Mad, insane comp this truly is.
I will say
what is
this one with
Shanghai
the
playing
Moira
as well?
is closer.
Okay, never mind.
Well, they're
The
playing
Moira
Sombra.
is closer though than the Zin. The Zin is less like the Moira. The Moira allows you to be like in their
I
shit.
don't agree. I don't
So-
agree. All right. Anyway, this was some rando nonsense bullshit. Let's move on a little bit. So we have a sponsor for this episode, and it is Juked.gg. It's an application, but more than that, it's a community. You can find it on all of the places that you would normally go to, whether you're on Android or iOS for your apps. And essentially, it is a fan base. If you want to go there for Overwatch, we're going to be doing this for the Valorant show as well. But if you're looking for a place to discuss Overwatch with other people that isn't just, social media or Reddit, it's more of like a tight-knit thing where people are going to be, sharing their stats analysis or thoughts on something or talking about a new hero that's been released, then you can check out Juke.gg. We're going to do an AMA with them, but if you want to sign up, it's jkd.gg/platchat. If you use our link that's down there in the lower third, you'll get a cool little Platchat badge when you sign up. Oh, very, very, very cute. And you'll be able to participate in more of these if we do them. So I've got some questions from the Juke community here that I want to throw out at you. So first of all, starting with this one. With the changes to 5v5, and this one is from Juke, from Stellatrix13. With the changes to 5v5 and one tank slot, Owl teams seem to have taken two approaches. One player hyperflexing on all of the heroes, or a rotation of 2 or 3 players. Each approach has its own pros or cons, but which one do you think is actually better? So we're comparing, I guess, Reiner, Smurf kind of approach to, let's actually say like a Fearless Handbing, because we're not trying to contrast good to bad players. We're trying to contrast swapping around people rotating in the tank role. Which would you prefer in that department, a team to be built like?
It's 100% like the Reiner Gladiators, in my opinion, like of having that hyperflex tank. And I think that is going to be the future of Overwatch too. Of like, it's too difficult to sub, like, as more tank heroes come in, you're probably going to want to, but if there is a perfect world where you can play one player a majority of the time, the ability to keep that synergy is just too important, in my opinion. And that's one of the big successes of the Los Angeles Gladiators. Reiner plays what feels like literally everything, and that makes them unpredictable, especially when they can play anything with any roster, with their one core roster in.
What happens if you end up having a tank player that's bad, though? I'm trying to think of like a team in the league that tried to do the hyperflex approach, but their player's just not flexible enough.
Like Vancouver Titans with Foles on Winston, like, kind of.
Oh.
Sure.
Like,
Just going to roast a guy?
You just asked me where
asked
didn't
for an
it
example.
work, so I brought up a situation where it didn't work.
You literally asked for an example. So
Yeah, if you were going to build a team, what I mean, do you want the added kind of what's the word, like support of having that extra person on the bench, or would you just try and go all in on one player?
I think right now you got to spread it out, but at some point you're gonna want to find a player who can do it. And like I think there aren't that many players who can play at the same level as Reiner on every hero. And I think it's fine to have 2 tank players right now, but the future is tank players will learn how to play everything to a high degree.
Yeah.
That's
very like ambitious, but I pretty much agree to an extent. I still think there'll be like specialists and stuff like that, like we always have.
Right.
The DPS players.
Here's another question on Duke from Stir Fry that says, why do you think Orissa's not getting more playtime? Does she need further changes to be relevant? And I am personally invested in this as well. I want to see an Orisa meta where people are running at each other and fucking throwing spears. I'm enjoying the Sojourn meta at the moment. I mean, it might be a little busted, but it's fun to watch for a bit. What do you think would actually have to change for Orisa to be meta without her shield?
First of all, she's like a bad hero. Like, imagine she's like Sigma without the shield. Like, that's essentially, you know,
and she does less damage.
Yeah, does less damage. She has a spear. Sigma has a rock. She has like the absorb all the projectiles and stuff, like Sigma does. But Sigma has a great shield that you can use to block off damage and actually like try to take some space, and just more mitigation. Sigma is like a more standalone type of Sigma character, and that shit just doesn't fly. Like, you'll be able to play around her. Biotic grenades are gonna be great against her, stuff like that. So her ultimate, like, what the fuck? How do you even get close enough to actually like land a good ultimate? So especially in the Overwatch League, I think that's going to be very hard. I think she's a very fun hero, but her kit just doesn't make sense for pro play, in my opinion.
Her head hitbox is enormous as well. When she's not fortified, she just falls over.
What would you do to fix
head
that?
reduction?
I honestly like that is a big thing, but I agree with Johnny. She doesn't do like Reinhardt is a better rush hero than her, and Sigma does better job at like staying in that mid range and applying pressure. Like, she just doesn't do anything better than the other heroes in the roster.
I actually think it would be interesting for her if you upped her damage across the board and changed her like mechanic with her like spear engage to where like there's shorter cooldowns, or maybe you're even like able to cover more distance like quicker and stuff like that. Like, you need something to make her, because like her survivability, you could make her work like Reinhardt if she was survivable enough and did enough damage close quarters to where it made sense. The thing is, right now none of her kit is like, you're not in close quarters, she doesn't beat out really any character, especially like Rein, which is like the closest brawl comp, or like even Sigma, and she doesn't have any like ability to close gaps effectively, consistently, and mitigate damage. So like,
ironically, she's a horse. She just needs.
Ironically, she is a horse. Yeah.
Like, just give her a gallop.
Ironically, Orisa's a horse and can't do it. So I think there needs to be like some sort of changes there to where you can like, you just need to be able to offer something different and unique and like be stronger than another character, because that's the big thing that where heroes carve out niches, right? It's like, oh, we play Zarya because she can bubble and she builds high damage, we play Winston because he monkey and he zap and he jump, you know? And
I want to find tank heroes that have niches, and your brain came up with Winston, and your niche fill was he monkey.
He was monkey. But the thing is, his niche is that he's able to engage consistently. His bubble is very strong, so it can block up areas of the map. Like, you know, like the great disruptor. Like, you know, there has to be niches for a hero to fill, and Orisa currently fills. Like, what does Orisa do better than any hero? And the answer is realistically nothing.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know. Here we have another question from Snowy from the Duke community. He says, "Why does Boston insist on playing the wrong 5 players?" And Jonathan, I know you are a big fan of Boston, the professional organization, but listen, that's a sentiment I'm sure that's shared by some of the Boston fans as well. So what's going on here?
Well, what was the... Are they talking about the NYXL Wrecking Ball composition?
I think they're talking about just playing Punk, Crimzo, Faith full-time, all the time in the 5-man.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have a Wrecking Ball specialist, and some teams have been playing Wrecking Ball on Control Center. I don't think it's preposterous for them to bring out like a Wrecking Ball type of lineup, if that's something they want to experiment and play with. So I don't think the Wrecking Ball composition is going to last long term. I think that people have relatively like figured it out. With Doomfist, like if you're able to play Doomfist into Wrecking Ball, I have a hard time seeing you get consistent value. But since teams have adapted the Wrecking Ball, I don't think they're necessarily doing anything wrong by bringing in NYXL and MCD to try to make that work. So honestly, this one don't really agree with.
Okay.
I want Punk to play the majority of the time. I think they should build the team around Punk being in the lineup. But if this was a one-off kind of control center specialist composition, I don't think other teams should be allowed to like get away with that and fail. Whereas we look at Boston Uprising as this single example that no, they're not allowed to do it. The Punk has to be in the lineup all the time. So like I think if other teams can do it and do it well, then Boston Uprising should be allowed to experiment with it too. So is it going to work long term? No, but I'm not going to be hard on them for trying it out and trying to make it work.
Reasonable.
A very benevolent, like that's very much like a.
I am the apologist.
Yeah, it's very much like a. I'm not going to interact with. They have free will. It's very much like a monotheistic.
It's bad free will, but it's free will.
Yeah.
I've got one final thing that I wanted to talk about because this one has intrigued me from XXG4L, which is Kevster v Proper. 2 MVP candidates, in my opinion, they say, and 2 players with substantial impact on their teams. Which player's superior in skill team aspect is with the potential for one player going to outshine the other one? Would you agree that those are 2 of the front runners for MVP currently, Proper and Kevster, based on how they've performed so far this season? And do you have a favorite between the 2?
All right, well, we're talking about the APAC region as well, right? Profit needs to be in the list if we're talking about those 2 players. Josh smiles as if he knows he was baiting us to like forget Profit.
I'm just reading the questions.
It's a 3-horse race right now, I think, between Proper, Kevster, and Profit. I think you can make an argument for any single one of them, and I think that would be fine. Personally, if I was taking a stab in the dark of who I think is leading right now, I would go towards Profit. But I think this is one stage of many, and I think it's going to be a long horse race of who can have the same level of impact throughout the entirety of the season.
I love that turn of phrase. A long horse race. A race where only the longest horses are allowed to participate. just really genetically modified double-decker bus kind of looking horses.
Our fucking horse races look very different, Josh, in Australia. That's all I'm telling you.
I think Profit has to be the front runner because of how impactful he was at actually winning the tournament. If you want to spread it across all the matches, I might honestly lean Kevster here because like I just think he's so consistently great at everything he does, and like he contributes to winning every single time he shows up in the server for the Gladiators. But I think that Profit had more impact, standalone impact. He dragged Seoul Dynasty across the finish line to win Kickoff Clash. As for Proper, obviously I don't think anyone can say that. Like, obviously it's very close between him and Kevster. I don't think you like. There's nothing that says otherwise. I just it's tough because Gladiators are probably the better team, and so Kevster is going to look better. Whereas, like, the Shock and Proper, like, they have to achieve something. They have to do something. Like, win a stage or something.
Jonathan says about the team currently at the top of the standings.
But they underperformed the Kickoff Clash tournament. Like, I don't care if you win your qualification matches. So, I think that this Proper kind of narrative, everyone was obviously, like, very in on Proper at the start of the season for good reason. He's been amazing so far. But I think over the course of the season, he's just going to become one of the others when it comes to like the MVP races and such. No, like what I'm not saying that like he's not going to be treated as this like the next coming of Jesus Christ in the Overwatch League. Like I actually think that he'll settle his place and his reputation will settle among other star players in the league, like Kevster, like Profit. So I think it's hard to argue when Gladiators show up at the Kickoff Clash playoff and just like dominate, and Kevster is like instrumental to that, versus Proper, who's like won some qualification matches and Shock have underperformed in tournaments.
I want to add on to that just like real quick. Something that I think Proper is getting away with, what I feel like right now, especially we saw it in the playoffs, is people only remember his like super high peaks, right? When he dominated the Washington Justice on New Queen Street, when he had that crazy game on Lijiang Tower. He's had matches where he's taken over, but he has maps, you know, especially in those playoffs where he doesn't show up for the first two. And that's why the Shock struggled very early on in most of the series, is when he goes missing, people don't remember. They only remember his high moments. And I think Kevster and Prophet are always there. And that's why I think Prop I would put third in the running right now.
All right. Well, there you go. That's the Juke.gg exclusive AMA. You can go to the URL. It's in the description as well. So I said this was going to be a batshit bonkers episode, and part of that is the stuff we're about to talk about right now as we head into Overwatch League shit. Because we've got, it's Drama Tuesday. It's fucking bonkers out here. So let's talk Florida Mayhem to start with, because honestly, this is the least of the drama. And Florida Mayhem, you know, they took some rap on social media about this as well, because Adam was dropped from the roster. And I think the biggest part of what people were annoyed about is that there was no communication to Adam in person, as he said in this tweet. So they didn't, you know, come and talk to him in person and tell him he was dropped. And then there was no real announcement of like, you know, thank you, Adam. Thanks for playing with us. Sorry you didn't get very much time on the roster, etc. It was just a kind of explanation of what's going on within the team about, you know, Kariv moving to coaching, etc. So yeah, this was a bit strange. Connor, you've got a lot to fucking apologize for here, actually.
Yeah, me personally. That's true. I control all the roster decisions, and also I manage every announcement, and I personally Discord called Adam and released him, so it was definitely all my fault with that one. I mean, I have a lot of I just, so as someone, here's the thing, once again, I have a lot of insider information related to this, and I think I'll say it face value, number one, and I think Albert himself has said this. It was, once again, I did not handle this in any way, but it was definitely I think the vibe was off. The vibe check was not passed in terms of, and the announcement was definitely not great. But I think the real culprit here, and this is something I've still been rallying against for a while, more so than anything else, is that at the end of the day, player getting dropped is not like, I don't think a player getting dropped within legal contract reasons is a huge deal. But more so than that, the 30-day contract player payout that we've moved to for the Overwatch League, where we've had like way too long of player protection, and then we go down to the most bare minimum player protection for like payouts, especially for players that like potentially have to move around the entire world, right? And like it happens like relatively early on, or deep into a season or something like that, like where they don't get much money. I think that's like the main issue for a lot of these player issues that we see for players moving around. And in addition to that, for the fact that like player stability is low, is that there's no incentive for teams to necessarily hold on to the players, right? If you pick up a player and you're like, okay, well, worst case scenario, we can always just drop him we drop him, pay him 30 days of money, right? That's a relatively low investment cost in terms of the grand scale of like a full budget for a roster. And that's a clear issue with where we've gone to with the contracts for players for the league, is that like, sure, we don't want to have contracts that are super burdensome where we have 3 players playing Valorant on $200,000 salaries or something, right? That are just sitting there and not doing anything. But at the same time, you also don't want to have players that you can just like pick up, yoink across the world. You know, they remove other opportunities because they go into your team, and then you drop them and they get 30 days to pay out. And so now they don't even get like essentially a full season or half a season worth of money to like, you know, go through the year, whether the year, if this is their full-time job, right?
Yeah, there's no need for an organization to commit long-term to these players because they know they can discard them. And for the players, why would you want to move across the world when you can get dropped a month later, when you might be giving up like your job opportunity or your, you know, whatever you're working towards? If you drop out of a college to pursue this opportunity, and then you're like, oh, sorry guys, I decided to like take a year of college, and then you get dropped 30 days in. Like, that's just an example, but like that's fucked. That sucks.
And it also means that you don't have to effectively scout too, is like my final point to this. And I'm not saying this was the case for Mayhem, by the way. I'm simply saying that for a lot of rosters,
It's like, so if you know that you can mix and match players at will with minimal problems, like you can be like, okay, I'm going to pick up a player for this meta. Okay, I'm now going to pick up a player for this meta, and I'm going to drop the player I picked up for the previous meta, and now I can just mix and match my roster throughout the year, right?
Well,
and like
two
obviously
of
it's
the
a little
teams
bit
we're
more
going to talk about this week have just picked up flex supports for a flex support meta. That's literally what's
No,
happening.
and I'm not saying that's a bad thing though. I'm just saying that like that is an issue with player longevity. That's the end of my point.
I want to add to this because my big problem is I played during the era of like when you signed a contract, you're fucking dandy, like you're chilling throughout the rest of the season. And I think that, you know, there are historical teams and players who have abused that fact, but I understand this is to protect the organization, but maybe the organization should do a better job of building rosters and like committing to players. Like the Florida Mayhem are the team that I think is the worst for this right now. And, you know, obviously they just dropped Mirror, like they signed Mirror and then just dropped him before the season even began. Like maybe they should have signed a more well-rounded player or someone they trusted in more. They did the same thing with Kariv, who has now just moved to a coach. They then did it with Adam again. They're signing lots of players without any expectation to commit to them. And I think that's, as you said, that's great freedom for the team, but that is not fair to the players who, you know, someone like Adam, I've literally done this trek, I've lived in this. When you fly over to the US on a visa, you think you've finally gotten your opportunity to play, and then you never get an opportunity to play, and then they just drop you and you have to go back to Australia. That's an opportunity that Adam could have had with a different team, right? Or he could have been able to scout with a different team, and maybe he would have got playtime. Maybe he would have had some more longevity. But now Adam, is anyone going to want to sign Adam again? He signed to the Florida Mayhem, didn't get to play, didn't do anything. Is it worth signing him again? His career could have gone down the drain. Same thing happened to Trill on the Dallas Fuel, and I think it's very unfair, these people signing, especially international players, and then just dropping them willy-nilly. And I think that's unfair to players. There needs to be a middle ground between this always getting stuck with multi-year contracts and only 30-day contract as of us.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to that. I think it's about the rules, and I don't think anyone else believes that it's like the team's fault. Like if you want to slander the Florida Mayhem for like constructing their roster in a poor way and making these decisions, it's like fair enough. Maybe they did a pretty poor job, and maybe you can like reflect on that and like analyze whether they did the right or the wrong thing, right? You can do that, but at the end of the day, this is the framework they're allowed to operate under. These are the decisions they're allowed to do. They're allowed to cut players like this. They're allowed to not dedicate, resources and time and, invest in these players who are making huge decisions to play within the league. So ultimately, it falls on the league's framework to make this, make it a balancing act where players feel safe committing to some of these opportunities, especially if you're Adam or Trill and you're moving across continents. That's a huge deal. So you need to make sure that those players are safe, and this space is like, reputationally like a good scene. Like we're doing, good things for players, and we're not just squandering opportunities. We're not treating these players like they're nothing. I don't blame any of the teams for making any of these decisions necessarily. And if you want to like look at other teams, like say the Dallas Fuel, and it's like, well, Dallas Fuel, they take care of their players, and like they're a great environment, and like Haster's a great dude. It's like, yeah, but you can't, like, that's bonus points. That's bonus points. That's not like the baseline. The baseline is the teams can do whatever they want with the framework, and the framework is busted. So I think the league needs to do something to help out this situation going into next year. I doubt they can do anything this year,
Sure.
But ultimately, I don't think it falls on Florida Mayhem as an organization or like the people making the decisions, because they're allowed to do this, and they're just trying to stay competitive. They're trying to budget, and they're trying to do their job.
I think what does fall, the responsibility that an organization does fall, is to treat the player with enough respect to let them know that they're dropped in person. That I think is one of the things, especially when they have a coach who should be able to empathize with the amount of distance involved in this player coming over and playing for them. That to me is like part of the bonkers aspect of that, is that you have someone there that literally knows that this player has like traveled a huge fucking distance. But
well, I don't think Gunba was clued into the decision, like on how that call was made in the first place, right? So I don't think that's fair either.
Why wouldn't he be? Why wouldn't he be? He's the coach in charge of it all.
I mean,
He must be.
I see. This is the problem of having too much inside information, because if I start putting the inside information, like then you're just gonna be like,
is this
like perhaps like yeah. So I'll just say, I would assume that the coaches were very well aware, and perhaps in charge of decision making as the
like,
roster builders.
Like, why
you know?
would the head coach not be the one making the decision? Of course, he's the one unless it's something.
No, I'm not saying
third party.
decision. I'm saying the call. Like, I'm saying to call the person instead of doing it, IRL. Like, that's
I would
what
say
I'm
that the
saying.
coaches once again can choose to do it however they wish to do it. So like that's perhaps that's the coach decision.
If you say so, all right.
Okay. All I know that's so overall there's a lot of factors involved. But,
I'm enjoying the word salad here.
you know,
You didn't have to say anything, Avast. You could have just shut the fuck up, but instead you blessed us with this information.
But the thing is, I feel like it's pretty. I think it's. I think at that point you're kind of just. I think it's fair to at least say that like a coach has choice over what roster moves they make, and that's just a fact. Generally,
that's true.
The coach
Generally
makes
speaking,
all the roster moves, and that's just how it works in the modern era of Overwatch League. So, that's just the fact. So,
yeah,
'cause I don't want there to be too much. Like obviously, I think the org has blame in terms of the announcement, like the department, but the organization fucked up with that. Like. But I think it's pretty ridiculous to assume that like somehow Adam was released without the coach saying, "Okay, we don't want to play him." You know, like and
that's
like
not what I was saying though.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, it is what it sounded like, Johnny. I will back up on that.
Okay. Well, to me, it was strictly. Never mind. We don't need to get bogged down with it.
Okay.
It was just like.
He was talking about the communication
was
from the
to be able
staff.
to communicate in real life, and that was what.
But I mean, once again, there's a lot of other
right.
factors like involved with that, you know. But so it's
then I did a poor job, so I apologize.
Let's talk about even more juicy drama here. Same kind of topic,
gets
way
worse.
juicier drama. Because this is like that was some weak Western shit. Let's go to a Chinese org and you'll see chaos incarnate when it comes to this. So earlier today, the Guangzhou Charge, there were rumors circulating that they were going to release Eileen and the fan base was pissed about it. And then this morning, they announced on Weibo, they announced on Twitter that they were releasing Eileen. Now, Eileen says it's because of high salary. The organization has made some outrageously strong statements. Okay, this is Eileen on Weibo, I assume. And they're Eileen's talking about the cancellation process in terms of when they were training. I mean, some of this is, a bit awkward in terms of the translation, but as far as we can tell, they're laying out a timeline here of when they got terminated. So on June 20th, the manager and head coach said that I decided to terminate the contract due to my high salary, and the contract needs to be signed on the spot. So yeah, the wording there is a little awkward and could leave some ambiguity, but it seems like Eileen was saying that they were dropped because of their high salary. But on the org's perspective, Guangzhou Charge said it was a moral deficit that jeopardized the future of the organization and just unjustifiable conduct. And it's like, holy shit, man! These are some strong words to be thrown around there. Maybe they're not as strong in like the context of the original language, but they seem pretty fucking strong once you translate them to English. So I don't get what's going on here at all.
Even in their tweet, they say, we have done so after careful consideration of relevant factors, including risks to our team from inappropriate personal conduct, as well as the future development of our team. That was on their English Guangzhou Charge Twitter. So I agree that like everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt when it is translated. We've gone on witch hunts before over a poor translation. So like keep that in mind. But like something is amiss here because Eileen was probably on a very high contract. He's been with the Charge since 2019 when salaries ballooned and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has a high contract relative to the fact that he hasn't played a map this season. So I can understand them dropping him, but yeah, they have come hard in the paint to try and defend their decision of dropping
on
Eileen.
Weibo, they have a paragraph, Kurt just pulled it up, where it says, this is the translation through Google Translate, right? So again, grain of salt with how good this is, it's normally inaccurate, but roughly, it says, in response to a large number of untrue rumors and false revelations of related events, we reserve the right to pursue legal responsibility for those involved. So, listen, no matter how you Google Translate that, it seems to imply some level of, like, threats of litigation towards people spreading what they're alleging are false accusations. I'm not even sure what accusations they're talking about. I don't even know what that means. Is that Eileen talking about dropping for a high salary? Is that some other shit that I've missed?
I read a random Reddit comment, so once again, take it with a grain of salt. But it was saying
source Google Translate source Reddit comment.
Multiple sources say that Eileen had a situation where he would had a personal relationship conflict where he I don't know, potentially cheated on his girlfriend or something like that, and that is the thing that they're citing as personal relationship issues. I don't know if there's any validity to that, but we have never heard of anything Eileen doing anything wrong in Weibo or across the right. He seems like he's been a fine person from our perspective.
I mean,
so how do they drop him on?
It feels like with Overwatch players, you just have to wait long enough, and something comes out, something happens.
Yeah.
So yeah. So this
also,
is
if Eileen was dropped by someone on a Zoom call or in person, doesn't matter. Would they just tell him yeah, sorry, you're an awful teammate. We're gonna drop you because you're a bad person. Goodbye. It's more likely probably that you're just yeah, sorry, we can't handle your high salary. So it's been a good time here. Thank you for being on the team, but we gotta move on.
Well, I think we're also missing the key context here of the one key portion here that I think is the weird part, is the really bad part, is that they said this is an answer. This is a question for those that understand the direct translation, is what does terminate contract mean? In this case, are they referring to a drop where he's getting paid out X amount of salary based off the 30 days minimum or whatever they agreed upon for? Or are they terminating as in he's getting fired with cause, not getting paid money?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
that's the thing that changes the whole setup, right?
Because the phrasing of the announcement would imply he's being dropped with cause and
so he's not getting money, right? Yeah, and to me, that's the truly heinous portion of this, right? It's saying the team comes to him and be like, you have to sign this today. We're terminating your contract. We can't afford you, right? Apparently. And in so many words. But you can't even pay his payout, his 30-day minimum of money or something like that. That is far worse to me, because once again, this is another instance of the contracts are not being, and this is one of the situations where
well, wait there a second, because on one side of things, we don't have any evidence, but on one side of things, it could be Eileen's done something heinous and therefore he's been dropped.
It could be
Eileen himself's trying to cover his tracks. Or on the other side of things, it could be Org is bankrupt and needs to drop their players and make up a cause to avoid paying them out for the next X period of time. But there's a chasm between the two and no evidence to lean you in one way or another.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's why that context matters, right? Did he get paid out his money or did he not? What does terminate mean in this particular context? And if they're not paying out his money for this supposed moral problem, what the fuck? Surely, because Eileen obviously has publicly said it's not a moral issue already. He said it's because of my salary. So I don't know. It seems like a pretty rough situation over there, and I find it very bad that there's no way, if there was this is one of the situations where players should be able to arbitrate it if this is the cause, right? But it sounds like there's just no real way for them. And also a lot of players, even if they feel like they've been wronged, for example, the Vancouver Titans roster, none of them took the steps to potentially seek out their arbitration, because what are you going to do? Hire a lawyer and sue for your wages you've lost, and then make sure that no other team that potentially will ever hire you again, right? That's kind of the issue of not having those strong collective player agreements, right? Is that you can't, that there's very much a lack of protection, even if you are in the right. So, which is a whole other discussion here, but this is also I've also seen some brain dead takes of everyone being guys, this is why we need to dissolve the league, because they're doing stuff like this. I'm well, I'm going to be honest with you. Obviously, there are pros and cons, but do you somehow think in esports without leagues that player contracts are somehow more stable?
Yeah. They are worse.
Obviously there are other things, right? That involve okay, you have more vibrant, you have a scene with more teams. So even if you get fucked over, you go to another team really quickly. But not having a league doesn't make player contracts better for players. It would generally make it worse still.
Yeah.
It's the same as the union conversation. They're they should form a union. And I think I think this year is over the last couple of years has been the worst, that players have started to get
definitely
treated poorly. For the most part, the Overwatch League has treated players very well. And, minimum 50K salary, all these kind of things on top of it. But if this stuff keeps happening, I don't believe the players are ever going to be able to form a union. Too many cultures, too many people not getting personally affected by it. I think it's going to be hard to get a union
Too many
together.
legal frameworks as well. They don't live
Too
in
many,
the same
like,
countries at all.
You're asking the players to pay money for something that doesn't really affect them personally all that much, and the players just want to play the game anyway. It's just not going to happen. I think it's unrealistic to expect that to change. But the league, we need to keep putting pressure on the league and the teams and stuff like that, because what has happened in these last couple of years has been pretty heinous, and the way some of these players are being treated, there needs to be a rule set change and some framework change, as Johnny was saying.
And this case in particular just needs more transparency. I think these are the kind of cases where the league needs to investigate what the fuck is going on and put out a transparent message of either Eileen was dropped with cause and it was reasonable, or Eileen was dropped with cause and it was unreasonable. We're going to take some action to try and fix that. Or Eileen was dropped and still getting paid out and they're just creating some drama on the internet. You know, there's a wide gamut of what the hell could be going on here, but it's bonkers and very dramatic. It doesn't really get less dramatic, though, because moving things over to,
Oh my God.
I'm going to say another Chinese organization, but it's not really. It's an American organization.
No, it is a Chinese organization. They're
I
the
mean,
ones
it is. It's
running
LG
right?
that are
So,
running it, but
yeah.
it's Marvel, the off-tank main tank player, has joined the LA Valiant, and the alleged setup with the contract is that everybody else on the team, including the coach, is taking a pay cut in order to fund Marvel's contract. What? What's the why?
So
It gets worse as well.
It gets so much worse than this too. So like, I mean, it's so this saga has actually, this plus the Charge saga, but mostly this, especially in comparison to like the Adam stuff, as like, obviously the Adam stuff was like, okay, like fuck up by the org, like, okay, like whatever, but like he got paid his money, right? This is the very foundation of the league has dissolved on a legal basis, if this is the case. The same with potentially the Charge, but mostly with this, like, and it's a very interesting thing that like, I think it's partially because we have such our fan base and like a lot of the people we interact with, it's a very Western centric view of like where we get our information from and skews our lenses. But like, it seems to me that like, these are just, a lot of these heinous issues are happening in a region that just we simply don't have a lot of exposure to, right? Which it could be an issue of translation, could be an issue we don't have enough insider access, right? Of like what we sort of know.
Yeah.
But this type of news should be plastered. Everyone should be talking about this forever, because it essentially tells you that contracts don't matter. You can agree to a minimum contract term, and you can just be like, oh, like it's all good. Like actually, we're all going to fund this new player from your contracts because we don't have the budget. And that means you're getting paid less than your agreed upon money. That literally just means you are not getting paid the same amount of money that you agreed to. And two, even the more crazy part about this is that there was like 10 select Valiant fans on Twitter that got really, really mad at me for daring to suggest this was an issue. And we're like, no, you don't get it, you stupid idiot. You're so condescending. Easy Han and Haker just don't get paid. And that's why it's on issue. And I'm like,
And they're happy with it. It's like, what?
and I was like, so you're telling me that 2 of their 5 DPS players just don't get paid at all? And you're saying that makes this situation better? As if like, and they're like, no, it's because Easy Han's so rich. It's like they actually housing all of them in Korea. And like, I don't give a fuck if this guy was Bill Gates' son. You should be legally required to get paid if you are performing work. The minimum amount even. And like, if they're just not paying players and they have 5 DPS players, then No Hill's essentially he's just amassing a bunch of indentured servants on the Valiant roster. That is like, there's no player contracts, there's no stipulations. It's also a really big issue because I think fans view it where like everything's kosher if players don't make a tweet talking about it, right? If all the Valiant players are like, ooh, like this is so nice, I'm getting paid $10 a year, and like but everyone gets contracts, but then then another player's like, wow, this is such a disrespectful like let go, right? Like sure, they're both issues, right? But one of them is still a way bigger issue. And on top of that, like players and people being accepting of it doesn't make it okay.
No.
Just because someone agrees to do something stupid doesn't mean everyone has to be like, this is good. They're fine with it, so it's fine. If I walked into like some sort of like, I don't know, newborn baby ward and just smoked all the time, and everyone's just like, no, he's choosing to do that.
it's okay. He's fine with the risk because like he's doing it voluntarily. It's like, no, there's rules, there's stipulations. Doing something voluntarily doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it okay. Like this conversation has essentially told me that the league as a functional framework there's no oversight in the region. It feels like, where's the oversight here if this is even close to being true? Because players aren't getting paid, we're taking away players' minimum contract amounts, and then also potentially orgs are just strong-arming people into terminating their contracts, right? But who knows on the charge stuff? The charge thing is more nebulous.
Yeah, but
that's crazy.
I saw people using the comparison to traditional sports where sometimes a team will hit a salary cap and they will go to the rest of the team and say, hey, we want to negotiate certain people down so that we can fit an extra player in. Sometimes the players are okay with that because it means they're more likely to win, and that's why they sign onto the team. And also they're earning $1 bajillion a year anyway in traditional sports. That is not going to be the case for the LA Valiant players, who are also not going to be in a position to win. So it's just an absurd situation, in my opinion. A truly absurd situation.
It's also not just like the idea of like, oh, you know, everyone taking a less salary so you can pay for this guy. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world if that was the thing. If you're pushing people below minimum wage to do that, then it's a big problem. And like the Valiant, there were rumors last year that they weren't playing their players the minimum 50,000. There were rumors that going around. We don't get a lot of the information, as Connor said, because we don't really get that form of media coming through to us. We don't really have that active like lens on that region. But I was reading translations that were coming from an EasyHan stream or a Haker stream. I think it was Haker actually, who was saying that like EasyHan's family is like rich. So their facility of where they're practicing is one of EasyHan's like family house. Like that's what they're saying. Like that's the rumors going out into the information, into the world, so that they're not having to pay for like facilities and stuff like that. And then Haker is also not getting paid. EasyHan's not getting paid because they just wanted to be on the team or something like that. We don't know, but something is fucked up. And I think, as Connor said, there needs to be some form of regulation from the league. Are they just trusting that everyone is giving everyone the minimum requirements and that everyone is treating their players with respect, and they just are letting these Chinese teams just like run independently? There's a big problem here, and something needs to be done from the league to step in, because this, as much as Connor said, as much as the players are happy with it, it is setting a very bad precedent for the league.
I also just want to jump in on that point too, because you said it wouldn't be so bad if everyone agreed and came together and reduced their salaries. I agree on a theoretical point of view there, but in a practical sense, if you get... So this idea had to spawn on someone. They didn't all simultaneously think to themselves, we should take less money in order for this person to come in. Someone had that idea, the genesis of that idea, got a couple of other people on board, and then the more people that are on board, the more difficult it is as a player to say, fuck off, I want to keep my money. That's an almost impossible situation if you're the last person on the team that is now blocking everyone else's desire to get somebody new involved. If they're saying to you, listen, I know this is a bit unfair, but all the rest of us have agreed we're going to take a 5%, 10% pay cut, and we're going to get this extra player in, it'll help us win. There's pressure on you to go along with the group and make that decision and ruin your own contract that you negotiated at the beginning of the year in order to facilitate that and make the team happy. And I think that's part of the reason why I don't really agree with the take that appears to be out there on the Western Twitter, that it's a cool team camaraderie thing, or it's like it's No Hill's vision and they're all buying into it. Like, this idea must have come from No Hill or upper management. But at some point, it's squashing worker salaries from above. It's the people at the top wanting a win, and it's squashing things down. Unless this was a player that decided to make this decision and got in touch with the others. And even then, there could be some level of pressure involved. But it's almost certainly coming from the top and asking the people below to squish down the salaries. Even if the coach themselves is taking a cut. I think it's a kind of ridiculous thing to even suggest from a coaching perspective. That, like, I feel like the coach, their job is not just to make the team good. They are the connective tissue between upper management putting pressure on the players, and your job as a coach is to sometimes have to fight back against upper management to look out for your players, because upper management are not going to be looking out for the players a lot of the time. So I think this is a almost certainly going to be a failure of that kind of system, rather than something cool to look at and try and, some kind of fantasy storyline of all the pieces coming together and believing in a team system. Doesn't strike me as a good idea.
It's very easy to get your mind warped when you're a player in one of these organizations and all you do every day is just play video games for like 8 to 12 hours a day, and you spend every day with the same teammates every single time. Like when I was in Korea and we just like were in a hotel for like 2 to 3 months and I just like played video games with the same people every day, like that kind of environment, it molds your thinking. It like changes, you know, obviously based on your environment. And if that environment is bad, it's going to breed some kind of like habits or ways of thinking that can be malicious sometimes. And this is one of those examples where the outside regulatory framework needs to be put in place to avoid situations like these. And like these are kids like making these decisions, so you can't give them credit for being, you know, caring or like making their own choices. Like, no, this is when like veterans or adults should like enter the room and just be like, hey, this is pretty fucked up and like things shouldn't be this way. Like if you're like, well, Isian is like comes from a rich family or whatever and he has disposable income and he can make this work, well, he's fucking 18, okay? Like he's not like a 30-year-old like making his own financial decisions and like realize the repercussions of you know, bringing on something like this. So I think that you can't just give these players too much credit, because actually they're just part of groupthink a lot of the time, and that sometimes can bring some pretty bad ideas. So like you guys have already said, like if you're an adult, you need to step into this situation and just be like, this shit is unacceptable, and you guys need to be taken care of.
You know what it reminds me of? It's a similar situation to that BlizzCon Overwatch World Cup, where we took salary cuts to get the desk that we wanted for that World Cup. Do you remember that, Jonathan?
Bring it up, but yes, I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah. So that I can't remember exactly what it was. Did they not want to pay Bren or something?
They had a budget, and Bren. I don't think Bren was supposed to be like, we were supposed to be a three-person desk, I think. But then, you know, what we argued was just like, the product is just going to be infinitely better if we get Bren involved, and it's the four of us, right? And it's going to be great. So we were willing to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong, by the way, with making that decision on your own. But what I'm against is like when you put like 6 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds in a room, and then you breathe that kind of environment, and then you warp their mind into thinking that this is like how it's supposed to be and that they're doing a good thing. Because like we were able to make that individual choice for one event as like, hey, this is something we want to do and he's our friend, versus, hey guys, I know the minimum wage in the league is $50,000, but actually like it'd be way better if you took $30,000. Like that's I can't figure out the word, but that's like malicious in a sense. That's way different from us, you know, reducing our pay to get Bren involved. I think it's completely different in that regard. So the circumstances are just not the same.
I mean,
Also,
I
know
also
he'll-
think that in both of those instances, there are it's an outrageous situation to be put in.
Yes, it's outrageous both ways, but it's definitely outrageous both ways. But it's more understandable when it's like, okay, here's our budget, like here's what you got, and you don't have like a figure. You don't. I think No Hill's also, because I remember I made this comment at the end of the beginning of the season where like one team is determined to be the meme team, the D20 rolls, and one team is determined to be like the meme team, and Valiant is the meme team. Like, you see the news is like everything No Hill does, where he's like, I had a fucking ayahuasca dream where I wandered the astral plane and came with a comp, you know, and all these news and like seeing him like dance shirtless behind player cams and shit, like everyone's like, oh, I love No Hill. Like, oh, we have 5 GPS, like everyone's great. But then you see something like this happening where like this should be a head coach responsibility. It's like he comes in and it's clear that I'm sure he has to have, I doubt the upper management of Valiant is like, guys, you had to get Marvel. I'm highly doubting that like the higher ups were like, we had to get Marvel. It's probably a No Hill decision that he wanted to get Marvel. And even so, like, you can't just tell your players, like, especially when there's like a different power dynamic too, between like, let's say for example, there's that World Cup desk and No Hill, right? You guys didn't have a No Hill being like, guys, you should all chip in for like, I am your superior coach. Like, I want this to happen, you know, and you need to all chip in and be a team player, right? That's a very different power dynamic involved. Like, even if it's completely voluntary, this is someone the players trust. This is their coach, someone that brought them in, that like essentially is seen as their job giver, you know, like is like, well, do we want to be unemployed or do we want to just like take a pay cut, right? Because like, what's the implication of like, if you go against it, like maybe they cut you to fund Marvel, right? Like it's obviously still voluntary, but there's so many implicit power dynamics
at play when you have players this young that don't know much else, and they're working with a head coach that like is kind of like a revered, and then everyone kind of gives it a pass because it's a meme. And because it's the meme team. I'm like, no, you can't get a pass for this. Like,
also, these are big sums of money. This is $50,000. Now, I don't know how much money we're actually talking about here, but these are big sums of money. Like our 3-4 day event over a weekend, it's not even comparable to a fucking season of play of the Overwatch League. Like, these are tens of thousands of dollars we're talking about here. So it's not some wishy-washy amount that like doesn't matter. It's like, oh, I didn't have coffee from Starbucks this morning because, you know, I wanted to get this guy involved. It's like, no, these are like serious amounts of money. Like, first of all, I don't think the Overwatch League would ever do this. Just preface this example. But it's completely different if they were like, hey, Johnny, could you take a pay cut this year for this season? Because we want to get Custa involved in the desk. I'm like, no, fuck Custa. I'm not like reducing salary to like get him involved. Like, that's your budgeting for this entire season, right? So the two examples are just like, so no one gets it messed up. Like, they're so far away and completely different circumstances and some money involved. So don't compare them because it's not fair.
Right. Well, there was some further stuff with the Valiant as well, right? They released Koi List. That's
I could not believe.
Can you click on the left image?
No, they corrected it.
Right?
And
They
there's the screenshot on Reddit got deleted as well.
The screenshot got deleted on Reddit.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Motherfucker, they're going to take us down after this.
The
they
worst
spelled
thing
his
was,
name wrong though.
The worst thing was, it was Koi List, and then they recognized their mistake, and instead of being like, well, time to delete the tweet and fix it with the updated graphic, they originally just commented on the original post and said, coldest with an asterisk on the top as like, oh, sorry, we mistyped his name in the graphic. Like, no. And then everyone got really mad and they're like, well, I guess we'll redo the graphic then and then fix it. Like, the only reason we have a new graphic is because there was public pressure. Like, this organization is just fucking lost. It's dead to me. Like, I love the Valiant. They gave me everything that I am right now. They gave me success. And yet the organization as a whole is just not the same thing. And it's just absolutely sad to see.
Yep. This situation is majorly fucked up, and I'm still appalled that multiple people came to me to be like, guys, you don't get it. They can't cut one of the 5 DPS players to fund Marvel because 2 of those 5 DPS players just don't get paid. I'm like, that's still, like, that's the justification that we had there. Like, it's out of this world, man. And it's a clue, and it's also just a clear, like, now, if there's anything that when people should jump the gun, it shouldn't be like the charge. It should be like being like, this, we can't have these players, these Chinese and Korean players deserve the respect and the job security and their money that we give the Western counterparts. They do. Yeah. And like, we can't, just because we don't view it through, like, we don't get all the same information. And also just because No Hill's a fucking meme, doesn't eat shirtless, doesn't mean there isn't some sort of a weird abuse of power or like weird dynamics going on. And also at the end of the day, like, once again, the voluntary argument, like, doing something voluntarily doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it smart. I was dumb as fucking shit as a player mere years ago. I would say I've only marginally improved in smartness since then, but I was way dumber as a player in terms of my elimination. And I had like way more experience, I'd say, than the average player in the Overwatch League in the real world too. I had worked other jobs, I had gone to school, like, and I still consider myself really stupid. These kids are like 18 to 20. They've done nothing else their whole lives. They're probably some of the dumbest people on planet Earth in terms of like, and like, you can't let them be taken advantage of.
Unnecessary.
But they're being taken advantage of. They're young. They just don't have the life experience.
You could use words like naive, but you use dumb.
Yeah,
no
but
reason.
I mean, you know, they're not actually dumb. They're not mentally incapacitated. Obviously, they just don't have They just don't have a lot of life experience.
Yeah, they're not experienced.
And I'm using the words interchangeably, okay, for the memes.
I know what you mean.
I
think
thousands won't, but I know what you mean.
It would be interesting. I assume Johnny, Avast, and myself, we're just 3 examples, and we're actually all pretty old of the bunch of like, we can look back at our careers and we can see multiple instances of when someone was being incredibly predatory to you as a player or you as a team or anything like that. Like, it happens so much in esports, and like, the whole point of a league is there's supposed to be some governing body overseeing it all, and they did in the first couple of years, but it's just been lost in the last couple of years, and it's causing these kind of issues.
Dude, I fucking left a top 3 team in the world to make Misfits. What the fuck did someone would have to stop me and just be like, hold on a minute. You're starting an all-Swedish team, these are the players. You're not gonna leave this team. Like, could someone just have said like fucking timeout, Reinforce? I mean, what was I thinking? Come on, we were all fucking stupid.
Okay, we should have really ranked these in order of nonsense, because this feels like we're going back to normality a little bit here. But it's Glister leaving the Paris Eternal, and apparently this was a mutual agreement between the team. Wasn't based on Glister's performance, but more based on how he actually fit into the system and how they were able to integrate a Korean player into a European squad. And Dove has come in to replace on the Paris Eternal. So this is like a pretty big change in terms of the DPS line that you were expecting from Paris at the beginning of the season, when it looked like it was going to be Naga and Glister. Now you're looking more at, Wub and Dove. Glister and Dove combined in my head there. Yeah, this is going to seem like a very tame topic, because we've gone off the mountain of nonsense and we've slid down back into kind of reasonable stuff again, unless there's something I'm missing which makes this incredible. But yeah, this is just double American DPS line now with Wub and Dove, moving away from perhaps some of their more European roots, moving towards Vegas. Wub and Dove are taking them to the promised land. What do you think about this?
I'm sure it's just Wub and Dove are great players, and I think they've been actually putting on some solid performances. Paris have been looking better, but I'm sure one of the primary reasons that these guys were signed is because they're American, and I believe they're based in Vegas, so they're easily able to get into the training facility, and it's been a short turnaround in terms of getting them integrated on the team. And they've been doing well. So I'm happy for them. We had questions of whether or not Glister was going to struggle being the only Korean player on a fully European team with J-Mac as the head coach. And it seems like that was the issue. Glister never really had great performances on the Eternal. So I'm excited to see where they can go with this roster.
Yeah. I think overall, that's just about it. I mean, just the player. It's clear that, like, maybe just a little bit of a mismatch on, like, what they wanted to do. There's team, and, like, initially, and Glister was like, well, this isn't working out for me. Team's like, yeah, it's not working out for us. Let's get American players. And Dove's been good. A good addition. So the drama factor's gone down. We're out of drama Tuesday, and we've gone to why people happy Wednesday.
Can we create some drama? Fuck the Paris Eternal for picking up a Korean player without the correct support system around them. Fuck
yeah.
The thing is,
Glister,
people are legitimately
people
were legitimately mad about this, and that's like also the other thing of like everything is through a player lens. I feel like a lot of times when people get their when the people get informed about like what moves happen because there's so little extra information. If Glister had made a tweet being like, I am very mad, then everyone would have been even more mad. But then, like, it's just like, it's just how it is. Like, I feel like people just need to sometimes analyze these moves and be like, just because a player gets leaves or dropped about roster doesn't mean a great injustice was performed upon them. But also, it's like, I don't know. I think this was just maybe a little bit of a maybe just ambitious play from Eternal to get Glister, and then Glister probably thought he could make it work, and it just couldn't work out.
Yeah. And a lot of teams as well either have short-sighted vision or no vision at all. And I'm not talking about Paris here necessarily. I'm talking about our next team, NYXL. NYXL have added a third flex support. That was what they needed to fix the team. This team has been in the dumps. I believed in them. I predicted them this week. I shouldn't have. This team has...
You fool.
Yeah, this team is not in a great position here. Join us in welcoming Drake to the team as our 6th player with a picture of Drake. No one asked for... What, sorry?
Is he an investor?
No, it's just a meme. It's just a meme.
That was just a meme?
Just a meme.
Meme, I guess.
I
don't know. I was extremely confused when I was looking at that. But anyway, New York have clear gaps in their team. They have ended the 30-day contract that they had with Vulcan. They don't have a main support player. They don't have depth on their roster. They don't have an extra DPS that they can rotate. But they do have 2 flex supports already. And now they have 3. Is it why? What's going on in the front office of NYXL this season? Have they just given up? Even if you've given up, why even bother? Just use Kooky.
Oh, they don't do that. Trust me, it doesn't work. For But like, yeah, and he's not even active for a month as well. Like, it's crazy.
I think
to
it's
me.
longer than a month. I think it might be closer to 2 months.
Let me see. I got it up right now. He comes of age on July 28th. You are right. So it's not even going to be. It's probably after the midseason. So it's the back half of the tournament.
Yeah, it is.
So here's my thing. Like, just sign. Like, if Myunbong's an issue, then just sign a main support. Gangnam Jin will go to flex. He's a great player. Just you need maybe more flexible DPS players. Maybe someone to back up Kellen. I don't know, anything that is some semblance of forward, but they just refuse to do it. I don't know. This team is another one that is just making all the wrong decisions when it feels like they could only make good decisions because of where they are stuck right now. Yet somehow they make another bad decision.
So fucking obvious.
Yeah,
that
it's
you
elementary.
feel like you couldn't make the wrong move, and yet there's one. I mean, it's kind of absurd.
They kind of
weird.
roster built themselves into a hole here, though, realistically, because like they've also chosen to go like a full Korean squad. So any player you pick up, there's going to be probably at least a month of lag time between them getting there because of visa stuff, at least,
Maybe.
if not longer. Like that's just a fact. Like it's going to take at least a month generally to get a player over here that's from Korea. You know.
So then
and
the age
probably
limit doesn't
longer.
really matter, but the point of their role still does.
No, the role. The thing is, this move fixes nothing in this current meta for them. If they need a better flex support, like a double flex support, he won't be here in time for it to matter. So it's like, okay, maybe for the future parts of the league it'll matter, but then you still have Gangnam Jin that's going to be on main support, I guess. You still don't have a backup for Kellen, and like, it's just. But this is like clearly an issue of like these are issues that the front office, like the coach and the GM, solve before the year starts. Of like, okay, yes, we have flexibility to drop and add players because of the contract rules. But if you're going to go full Korean roster, you probably need to guarantee the majority of your players, like your backup stuff, are here before the year starts, or scout them early to have them ready to get there because of visa issues. And no matter what moves New York takes now, it's all going to be lagging like a month or so behind because of visa stuff. So, and they've chosen obviously the most impotent of moves with this Ho1 signing, but it's just like, it's just weird. Their roster building choice is strange. It's bizarre.
Why does it feel like this year you've got some teams who are crushing it and some teams that have just fucking given up? I mean, some of these teams are making such abnormally poor decisions this season compared to in the past. Am I just viewing that with a rose-tinted lens, forgetting all the fuck-ups? I guess last year you had the Valiant, which just,
you had
the
Titans.
Entirety of that was nonsense.
I think we're just fed up. I think we're done with the bullshit in a way.
Yeah.
And I also think we can see through the bullshit in a way that we haven't been able to before. I don't know about you guys, but this year I just like way more leaned into like hammering teams for being garbage. Whereas before we're just like, oh, you know, maybe they could work this out. And like 6 versus 6 as well. Like at some points you'd almost have to give players the benefit of the doubt because 6 versus 6 was so forgivable in a way. Whereas like 5 versus 5, like either you perform or you don't, and either like some of these makes sense or the moves don't make sense. Like I'm just like fed up with the bullshit in a way that I wasn't before the previous season.
We're becoming jaded.
Yeah. That being said, though, I'm going to be apologetic now, where I'm like, this move on the surface level is so fucking dumb that there has to be some kind of insider information or logic that like why this move makes sense. So like I'm always willing to be like, okay, I'm actually willing to hear the NYXL out. Like what's going on here? Is it something about like, you know, the team environment is going wrong and you need to like a third flex support to like for some kind of reason? Does Gangnam Jin actually like want to commit to a main support role and didn't want to become a flex support player? Is this a move to like look towards like 2023 and you wanted to get this player? But at the same token, it's not like you're signing fucking Speedily here. You're signing Ho1 from the O2 Blast. So like I don't know what the logic is, but there has to be some kind of logic because this just doesn't add up. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt until I understand like what's actually going on here.
We got a super chat from Moses who said, NYXL just got to sign OG. So yeah, that would fix the team. That would be a really good sign. Yeah,
OG,
that would be a great sign. So
yeah, totally. He's fixed lots of rosters so far.
I really want 1 year for a team to just say, fuck it. Reddit and Twitch chat are controlling our roster. I would love to see that. Just
Remember
an
when
investor that
signed
decides.
Pine? That really worked out. That
Yeah,
was great.
There was a thread
Sure, bumpers
recently
can make a difference.
about someone was like, now that we're looking back in players, would it be worth giving Pine another try? It's like, no, guys, it's over. Sometimes you just need to move on from life and just accept that it's over. And OG, Pine, they had their times in the sun. They had great times. It's over. Move
The
on.
community's
Let
like-
the new guard come through.
Like, fucking shithouse drunk at the end of the night, stuffing pizza in the mouth. Like, she still probably loves me, doesn't she? Sending him a text. Stop it. Stop it. It's over. It's done. You had the fun times, but they've stopped now. They've stopped. All right, we're going to take a short break. It's been a long episode already, and we have yet to discuss some of the matches that happened this week. Obviously, not going to be going over all of them because that would be simply madness when we've discussed so much about Overwatch 2 and the mad news that's been happening. But we're going to take a quick 3-minute break. Appreciate everybody that became a member and has done a super chat. I'll read through some of the super chats as well. And yeah, we're going to go and grab some water and stuff like that.
Kurt, do you want my tables?
Yes, sure.
Oh, yeah.
All the super chats are coming in right now for some reason. That's very strange, but thank you.
Yeah, these
Okay,
are all
I'm sending you
backlogged.
the
I've seen them. Some of these are
Yeah.
from like 15 minutes ago. or
Yeah,
something,
I don't
but
know
they're
why
just
that's
catching up.
happening. I'll have to fix that for the future episodes, but thank you anyway.
Oh, there's the same ones. What happened there?
All right, we got the time on the clock. Connor, talk to me about your table.
Well, they're both nice tables. I mean, they're very minimalist, and they got a nice like gray, like walnutty type of finish. And I'm just trying to. One has drawers, one doesn't. So I'm just, I want to see what chat thinks I should get. If they feel like what's the vibe. I just need another opinion. Welcome to member Gordon Sintowski. Sinkowski.
Yeah, you got it. Welcome to member. So what? We're running a poll here to decide which table you should buy from IKEA.
Yeah, well, it's not from IKEA.
Oh, are you going to commit to this though? Is the chat actually going to decide?
We'll see what the votes are. We'll see what the votes are like.
So you're just this is a non-binding referendum.
No. It is. Yeah, it's non-binding, but the thing is, there's a potential for it to be binding if I like where it's looking like.
That's some nonsense.
It's not
that is
nonsense.
some nonsense. We got some super chats that were just savage. I didn't want to read them out during the show, but I mean, William sent in a $5 super chat saying False is going to go 32nd in hero damage on Junkerqueen. Just so unnecessary. So unnecessary, the savagery. Bassonist said, my idea for Orisa is to make Spear Twirl work like Defense Matrix, which it nearly does anyway, but I guess you're talking about blocking hit scan. And then give her melee comparable damage to Rhine. So what, she's just a battle cattle that can punch people in the face for absurd amounts of damage. I mean, I guess that'd be kind of fun. Connor, you had one saying, Connor Fed Chairman Prince has no faith in Junkerqueen, still blames Brig more at 6. That was from, in fact, Jeff Koslowski.
Blames Brig? I don't understand. What do you mean?
It's when we were having the Rush discussion, and you were still just so hung up on Brig being in goats and that being the biggest problem.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's just we're dealing with a taxonomy, like, definition issue here, and I feel like you have to have Brigade and goats because otherwise it doesn't work out. I don't understand how Junkerqueen works into this conversation.
What are you snacking on?
I mean, pretzels.
I love pretzels. Sorry, I just got back to my computer. I don't know what you were saying. Are you doing? Did you do the poll?
Do I have access to run the poll in the chat?
Yes. You should. You're a mod.
Okay, let's see.
You have 20 seconds to run this poll. Actually, you could run it, and then we'll just conclude the episode with the results.
Yeah. There was Justin the commenter sent in a $10 super chat as well saying the biggest issues with the timeline, the criticism around the timeline for the PvP announcement, like the Overwatch 2 announcement, was more to do with the amount of heroes that are coming out per year. Someone on Reddit broke it down, and most other free-to-play games release 4 characters a year compared to it's going to be 3 in Overwatch. But I don't think that really matters, to be honest. I think that's a bit nitpicky. I mean, nitpicky and biased, I win. It feels a bit like that when I don't know, having a new hero every 18 weeks seems good. All right, let's get back on with it then. Connor's going to figure out how the poll function works so that you can pick his table for his haul, although it won't be legally binding.
It doesn't.
Are we gonna speedrun this?
It didn't let me try to didn't give me the option on a poll, Kurt. I went to like the area where you go to click the run poll, and it says it doesn't exist for me. So I don't know if
I'm
my
not doing
account
it for you right now, dude. I have so much
okay,
stuff
We'll
on
figure
this
it out
computer.
another time.
move on.
Connor's
Let's
not
move
going to
on.
buy a
Let's move on.
table. That's going to be how that
Let's move
works.
on.
So yeah, we're going to speedrun some of the Overwatch League stuff that happened this week as well. First of all, why isn't APAC playing? I understood why APAC wasn't playing the first week because they needed to like figure stuff out with the pandemic and stuff like that. Are they just skipping the first week of every tournament for APAC?
Less matches, yeah. I think it's just because they have less matches. They have 7 teams, and they all only play 6 times. They don't need as many days, as far as my understanding.
Seems weird, but I guess an extra break week for the APAC teams. They're not going to be mad about that. Let's talk Dallas Fuel then, because they played against really tough opposition this week. They played against Shock, they played against Atlanta Reign, and they did get rolled by both of these opponents. Both of these opponents have extremely strong Sojourn players. The meta's gone in a direction where you're seeing a ton of Sojourn, a lot of like Ball Zen, pokey backlines as well. What was the name that you ended up coining for this one? Is it Kickball? Pokeball? What did you go with?
I don't know. I've heard that the YouTube chat really likes kickball, but that doesn't. I don't like it. I don't get it. I get the kick in the ball. I get the kick in the ball,
and there's a ball.
Like, there's no funny element to it. It's literally just like kickball.
Kickball is what Americans call soccer, isn't it? Like you go out for a game of kickball or something.
No, you don't. No.
Kickball is its own individual game.
Oh, kickball is a different game.
It's like baseball, but instead of throwing a ball, you roll like a big ball, like a soccer ball, kind of. Rubber soccer ball.
That sounds like the most American game for kids. It's like,
Well,
you're bowling a soccer ball towards them and then they kick it.
Yeah. So instead of throwing things at each other, it's like a very casual way to play a sport because everyone can kick a ball somewhat.
Kind of. I don't know. I've seen some people try. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
I have seen people playing this, actually. Some of the streamers were playing a tournament of this, and I had no idea what the hell was going on. So, yeah, that's the reference, Jonathan. Some American thing.
Oh. Call it football. Global sport. Most played sport of all time. Or of all time.
It's different. It's baseball, but with kicking.
What do we call
Dallas Fuel. Let's
punting?
talk about Dallas Fuel. They got beaten by 2 opponents, so you'd expect them to be able to overtake. They did better than them in the kickoff clash, and yet they lose to both of them this week without having much success. Are they a Zarya one-trick team?
Yes. I genuinely... Okay, so Dallas, when we say a Zarya one-trick team, Dallas is still going to beat, like, easily 50% of the West. Like, they're still going to always be a good team, but I'm a little worried about the Dallas Fuel because they haven't shown an ability to play any other composition very cleanly other than the Hanbin, Edison, Zarya, Reaper composition. When they played the dive with Fearless in, they looked pretty meh. All the compositions that they've tried so far have been pretty meh. Just overall, I just don't think they have the same level of like hive mind synergy that we saw from them in the past. Their new players have obviously, they seem fine individually. It just feels like as a team, they're not on the same level. And even in the kickoff clash, they only really had success when they were playing the Zarya composition. So after going 0-2 this weekend against, good teams, I'm a little worried that they're going to be able to have the same form as last year where they just bounce back and then win a stage.
I actually take the opposite of that. This is one of the first times. We always try and watch point, and me and Custa disagree.
Yeah.
And now it's actually happening, but some Plat chat. I'm not going to argue that, they were great or anything, because obviously they were fucking shite this past weekend. But I do think that they're going to look better from here on out, and I do think they're going to improve in a pretty significant way. They started off the stage just like tragically against the San Francisco Shock, and they tried to force Gurio into these lineups. And I think what is most obvious about that is that Gurio is just like not on the same level as some of these other damage players like around the league. They also came out wrong with like the Fearless compositions. So like not only do you have like a bit of an issue integrating one of your players where Gurio just like flexed to Sombra to Lee Jiang Tower like in the very first Smurf against the Shock, but you haven't figured out the compositions you want to play yet compared to some of these other teams where like Atlanta Reign, pretty straightforward. Like they understand this composition very well. Their players are comfortable on it. The San Francisco Shock as well plays into the strengths of the San Francisco Shock like naturally. very comfortable on it. Dallas Fuel, they just had to play like arguably the 2 best teams in the region while having some internal issues figuring out their starting lineup and their compositional lineups. But I have full confidence that they'll be able to figure this out, and come the coming weeks, they're going to improve drastically. I don't think we'll be seeing Gurio again. I think that Edison was thrown in here on a more permanent way against the Atlanta Reign because they like panic swapped away from Gurio. I think Gurio was like part of the week 1 plans, and then they saw him play against the Shock and they were like, fuck, we gotta do something. And
he wasn't awful
in
against the Shock though.
What?
He wasn't awful against the Shock. On
Yeah,
the
I feel like
Widowmaker,
this is Gurio slander a bit.
Yeah,
This is a tad bit of Gurio slander.
I'm usually all for Gurio slander because I think in the kickoff clash he was incredibly mediocre, but I actually think he played somewhat better so far in this tournament. Yes, it's still not to the standards they need him to be, but it was an improvement.
I think if they would have think it was fine, he would have remained in the lineup against the Atlanta Reign. But instead, they just fully like moved away from him and committed to like Edison and Sparkle and stuff like that. So based on that, I think it's quite obvious that they're undergoing some kind of change of plans between the 2 matches. I don't
it's
think
crazy. It's like someone in the
planned.
offseason was telling you that the hitscan lineup for Dallas Fuel was going to be towards the bottom of the pack, and that we should be rating them lower in the power rankings. And oh no, the Dallas believers.
I don't remember anyone saying that.
Oh my god! Can you calm
No one
the
said
fuck
that.
down? They got
No one said that?
Of Clash. Chill
No
out.
one said that. Okay.
Calm down. Come on.
I do though. It wasn't just when I was watching the game against the Shock in particular. Watching Hanbin's Reinhardt was making my eyes bleed. I mean, what in the dickens is going on there? He just hard trolled the first 2 fights that they pulled him out on Rhine with, and it feels like they have not figured out their tank rotations at all in terms of when like they're not getting any value out of having Fearless in the lineup when he actually comes in. And I mean, Hanbin sometimes have to play Fearless's like roles anyway. And yeah, I haven't seen any comp that they're running well apart from the Zarya comp. And that's bizarre to me. I don't think they're a pokey team anyway, though. I wouldn't have expected this Dallas Fuel team to be good in this meta. But I'm still concerned that they haven't been successful at all when Fearless has been in the lineup. That concerns me.
Yeah, I mean, they've never played
I
poke,
think so.
right?
No, not
This
really. They haven't been a
situation.
traditional poke team. And I mean, I do think that's going to be... I think that's actually the biggest issue why they moved away. It was not the Gurio performance, but it's rather playing like this sort of comp with like the Echo and the Tracer is much more stylistically what they feel comfortable with, I bet. And also, you're allowed to like... I don't know what Edison's comps are like, obviously, but like you're able to have like Sparkle be a very vocal player in the server that leading your charge and like setting up your ground pounds and your dives and such and your engages. So I think that's a big reason why they went kind of heavily away from Gurio at times. But I also think it's a massive turbo troll because Gurio, like Scott said, like Custa was saying, is that Gurio looked okay versus Shock at points. And the reality is, I think right now, Sojourn, if you have a good Sojourn player and the other team doesn't, you will win.
Yeah.
Every time. You will just win. It's just she's so strong right now and
Broken, some might say.
Some might even say broken.
I
don't think she's like...
Some might say aiming in a vague fucking direction. It looks like when I'm watching some of these games. If you're a pro player, if you're a pro player and you're good enough to be able to hit headshots sometimes, the new changes have made it so that you hit headshots every time. It feels kind of absurd watching the pros play with the new change to a railgun. They are just way too consistent.
Well,
Yeah,
then
it's
hopefully
very weird that they made it.
Well, here's the thing, and I think this is even shown more by the fact that some teams still did not play her after all the changes. The problem is people are more likely to play their comfort. We saw more players play Hanzo. We saw more players play Ashe than they did try and play the Sojourn. If they kept her in her current state, people probably would have taken a very long time to like test her out and realize how strong she is.
Yeah.
I think this is how they should be balancing it, and this kind of stuff of... We play a lot of Sojourn. Yes, she's somewhat strong. Maybe we test to see how broken she is in her current state. And then you nerf her backwards when everyone starts playing her and realizes she's super strong. Because what happened was...
I like that idea. No problem with that.
Yeah, in her current state, no one was going to play her in the last kickoff clash. But you see, like, Kai is just bodying kids. And yes, making a case for her being broken. But... it'll be interesting to see how other teams deal with playing her, because I think after this weekend, if you are a team in the Overwatch League and you don't come out to play Sojourn, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know how you're planning
We
this
also
game.
talked about this, like when Sojourn wasn't getting playtime initially. She doesn't have that kind of identity that some other heroes have in the game. Like, some heroes are just like naturally a dive hero, and they're really efficient at dive. Others are really good at like bunkering down, taking things really slow. Sojourn is like a weird character that's somewhere down the middle. And so the way to get Sojourn playtime is either change her kit to cater to a playstyle, or just like make her numericals, like her damage numbers, just like absolutely insane. And so they made her like pretty insane, and this is how you get playtime out of her. I don't think there's like anything inherently wrong with that kind of balance design, but I think we had to get to this point to see Sojourn playtime in the first place, and I think we'll see her playtime drop off pretty significantly because of her lack of identity after some nerfs come in.
It's fun. Don't get me wrong. It is
Super
fun watching the Sojourn players at the moment. It's very fun, but it feels like they're the most important person out there by a significant margin when you're looking at how they're able to perform. Any kind of shield they're up against, instant 100 charge, headshot on any player. It's crazy out there.
I
think
there's a
entertaining.
two-part component to this as well, by the way, not just Sojourn, where like teams weren't comfortable with Sojourn initially and showed how like important she is, but also I think a lot of teams were trying to force without Xin play either as well. And I think Xin right now is insane. Like a lot of teams, even right now, as you can see this clip, people are trying to play like Lucio Bap, but I saw like there was a lot of like Bap Brig, a lot of Lucio Bap. There was like even like some Ana comps and stuff like that. Like I think currently the synergy because of the buffs to both Baptiste and Xin and things like that, along with the value of Sojourn being able to like have discords to roll people, and also the ball changes stuff. It's just Xin is a must play too currently.
The survivability
right
in particular, in my opinion, is just mental.
Yeah.
He's
very,
always
very
been
strong.
a very good fragger and very good in terms of utility with that Discord orb, and now he's much more difficult to punish. He's crarazy.
Well, especially since there's no rush. Like there's no rush really. Like rush isn't nearly as strong.
Good luck
so it's
rushing
still
into
viable.
a Sojourn and a Zen. They're
Yeah,
gonna melt
exactly.
you.
Like good luck doing that, especially when you also don't have as strong as like anti-nades. You don't have a soldier that's able, because that's a big component of the thing that changes that soldier, I think, getting nerfed, where he's not as fast and doesn't do as much damage. Takes away a lot of the potential rush styles, because like what are you gonna play? Like you can play like Genji, but I don't know. I don't think Genji is like Genji's not great versus like Bap Zen in general. And then so you're kind of forced to run soldiers like the other component of your
I think Genji's pretty good against the poke backline as long as you have a composition that they can brawl with a bit. I mean, I actually am coming round to the Genji comp with the Bap Brig in what's it called? What's that map called? Circuit Royale. When people are playing up there, because the ult cycling is able to force out these cooldowns like the trance and the lamp and allow you to hard engage with other abilities. I felt like Proper got a lot of work done here. And this was one of the maps as well where it feels like Kilo should be under insane pressure because he's playing against double sniper and he just kind of walks all over them, which is wild.
Gurio matched him pretty well in this map, actually, and which was surprising. He got a little rolled in the in parts of it, but I think they probably traded back and forth with Kilo, and that's sort of why I do give Gurio a little bit of that respect. But
you're also comparing like a solo sniper against two on the other side. It feels like Kilo should have his angles and sightlines shut down massively by Edison and Gurio.
But he's also getting pressured
I would rather play as a Widowmaker. I would rather play against a Widow Hanzo than a Widow Genji. I think Genji is a bigger problem to deal with.
Sure.
I think the Genji's good here because the Genji's good here for this comp because the Genji's pressuring two snipers. You have the ability to pressure two different snipers. I don't think and so there's less sightlines for Gurio and Edison to have because of the Genji pressure. But I also don't find Genji to be that good versus Babson in general. It just works better versus a double sniper because that's 2 DPS that you can effectively shut down. Is my personal take on it.
You were talking about rush comps earlier, so I want to move us along here. I do want to speedrun this a little bit. We don't have too many topics, though. But the rush comps being out, okay? London Spitfire were the biggest team that were getting advantage of that. They actually still played some of their rush comps this week in their 5-map win over the Florida Mayhem. And they are also being able to play the poke comps to a pretty good level, too. So my non-reactionary, extremely reasonable take... Are the London Spitfire going to win the mid-season madness? Are the London Spitfire going to bring the fucking trophy home?
No.
No.
Is the London Spitfire a team who can potentially beat any team in the West? Yes. But do I think when push comes to shoves and they have to go up against the Gladiators, are they going to be able to go toe-to-toe? No. I think they're going to easily qualify for the Midseason Madness. I think they're going to be an exciting team to watch. But I think they probably have a peak somewhere. And it is definitely well before first place.
But you're saying there's a chance.
There is a chance. Yes.
It's coming home. It's coming home. It's coming. The Overwatch League trophy's coming home.
I mean,
well, it's more Midseason Madness trophy, I'd say. More than the Overwatch League
true.
trophy,
But I mean, the
a bigger
meter
trophy
is
than a
getting
normal
knocked
stage.
off there. Midseason Madness trophy's coming home. It doesn't really flow off the fucking tongue, does it? I wanted to ask, because I haven't been keeping up with all of the table and everything. The points you got from the kickoff clash still qualify you for the Midseason Madness, which means a couple of teams are just kind of, assuming they do all right at all in the coming weeks, are going to be in. For London Spitfire, they're currently sat at 3-3, or I guess 4. No, they're now sat at what, 5-3?
5-3? I think they're 5-3, all right?
But without any of those bonus league points. What do they need to do? Do they need to continue this to qualify for Midseason Madness, or are they essentially in? Can someone give me an update?
Schedule. They have an easy schedule, so their next 2 matches are against New York Excelsior, Paris Eternal, Washington Justice, and then a week in Dallas Fuel. So they have a somewhat easy, they have a somewhat easy schedule through it. So I would be surprised if they didn't win a couple of those and make it to the midseason.
Yeah, I don't know the exact math on it, honestly, about like what they need to qualify. I know for like certain teams, though, we were ragging on them, but like for Valiant, they made through all these moves and they essentially still can't make it. So like, very interesting moves going on from there. But I think, and then for example, like Fuel, even if they're continuing getting rolled, I'm pretty sure they're still kind of like locked in because of their points from kickoff clash. So they could literally lose like half or more of their matches and devastatingly and still make it.
Yeah, I think London's pretty locked in. Like, if we're talking about like discussing who's going to make it, it's going to be about like the Boston Uprising, Washington Justice, Toronto Defiant. I feel like London Spitfire has sort of established themselves as a team above those 3, and arguably even the Florida Mayhem at this point. So I don't even think they're like in the discussion about like will they make it. I think at this point with their schedule, especially, like they're probably going to make it. So
good to see Poco in as well. Although the Diva pick not necessarily on meta at the moment. I haven't seen too much of that.
It actually wasn't. It wasn't awful. It really wasn't bad the way they were utilizing it. But it wasn't. I would definitely probably just take like a ball.
Yeah.
No.
Sparker on the Sojourn was sick, by the way.
popping.
And like, we've always talked highly of Sparker. He couldn't come of age until the end of last year, but he's really proving how good of a player he is, especially on that hit scan role. So on the back of Sparker, I actually genuinely believe in London Spitfire to play other compositions that aren't just the rush, and I think they've shown the ability to do that, and you need to give credit to the coaching staff of the London Spitfire as well. They're not working with the best players we have in this league, yet they're making it work, so credit where credit's due.
Although, if you look at the roster that they're currently fielding, with Sparker, Shax, Poco, Admiral, Landon, that isn't a bad roster when it comes to player quality.
And still, all of you guys wanted to rank them 20th going into the season, all right? If you're going to claim clout for Dallas Fuel on their hit scan lineup, I better reserve some extra spare change.
I mean, London are easily the team that's overperformed our expectations the highest, right? Like easily, not even slightly close. So yeah, 6th season from them so far. Really, really well played. And they are still finding ways of making the rush work too. I wasn't a fan of Backbone running the Sombra in the comp. I don't think that worked particularly well.
No one should play Sombra ever currently.
Ever.
No one should play that hero at all right now.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem effective in the slightest. I love how the casters are still in the framework of Zen has transcendence. Oh, let's see if the Zen gets hacked, and then the Zen gets hacked, and it lasts for like a fucking second.
Press
it makes no difference
like
anyway.
sweet.
Yeah, it just.
I actually saw someone. There was an
God
example
bless.
of this. A Zenyatta that got hacked and DMP'd and still popped transcendence, and I was like, what was the fucking point? Like,
No, it's just absurd, isn't it?
What?
It's just silly. Anyway, great wins for the London Spitfire then. As they head towards the Midseason Madness, I will be supporting. And Jonathan had this doomer topic he wanted to slide in here too. So let's get to this one. Who was your most disappointing team from week 1? Custa,
all right.
I want to start with you here. Jonathan,
fuck,
I'm not going to
where's
give
the
you an
results?
opportunity to defend yourself at the beginning. I'll let you do it afterwards. Custa, who's your most disappointing from week 1? Who did you have? And we're not allowed to talk about Dallas here because we already discussed Dallas.
So we're not allowed to talk about Dallas.
No.
Actually, this is fucking easy. Actually, and anyone who disagrees with me is just flat wrong. Toronto Defiant. It's fucking Winston composition. No, did they just not scrim? Did they not read the patch notes? Did they not read anything? They just came out with Muse on Winston as if he's just going to be able to jump onto the Zenyatta and kill him. And they just fed their brains out. And then they went into their second match, and guess what? Muse is still on Winston. They played a little bit of Hopper Sigma, and it looked good. Just play Hopper Sigma. Just play double flex. You have good players. That was a thonker. I understand they lost KDG, but doesn't mean the rest of their brains had to turn off.
Yeah, I don't even conclude Toronto Defiant because Toronto Defiant's in like the Washington Justice tier for me now. Like not quite that low, but like they can't disappoint me. So it's like it's out of my hands pretty much. We can't do Fuel.
Nope.
Outlaws.
Expand.
I think for me, the biggest issue with Outlaws is that they went
2-0, by the way.
Yeah, they did. But it's not about something. You can be disappointed even if they technically won. And like after, I mean, that Justice match. I mean, this is the definition of a team just like where it's clear they're figuring out the meta in their lineups. I think more so than anything else because the meta should be good for them here, right? Because they have Sigma opportunities. They still have Doomfist opportunities. On top of that, they have a double flex support potential with Lastro and Iris. And they have the right players for the team with Pelican and with Happy and and even with Dante when he's off the Doom. But their player rotation was not good. The player rotation was bad. I think Merit looked pretty flat at points. But when they kept him on the Sojourn, or not, I should say Happy's on Justice, not here. But like, when they kept Merit on the Sojourn, I should say, not Happy, but Merit, it was a lot better. But even still, he seemed kind of flat at points. And it was like, I think that's the big thing for me is I just want to see more from their player rotations. I want to see more from their comps. And I think they're going to be still okay, though. They're disappointing because I think they should have crushed the Justice, essentially. And like I said, if dollar cost, I'm never predicting for Justice again until like other than like New York.
I'm actually pissed because I went for the Justice in this game.
Yeah, like on that map, they looked so good, and then on Dorado, they got full held. Like
doesn't matter. Justice can't.
I thought this would be one of their bullshit wins. You know, I predicted them because I was like, I was doing the day trader approach where I could feel an upset in the water and I could feel the Houston Outlaws shit in the bed at the beginning of this meta, but it was just not quite there. Wasn't quite enough.
Yeah,
I do like the Kalios addition though.
Yeah, good. If they just play Kalios, they're fine. Like they lost 2 control maps with Mag. They're trying to play ball into Doom. And then Mag Doom, which I guess
you guys are all falling into the Justice trap. You're saying if they do this, they're fine. I've heard this a million times before. A million times. I am holding firm to this. I don't care if they win the next couple matches. I am predicting against them for the rest of the season, except against like New York and stuff, until they consistently win matches.
Dude, even Custa did New York. He predicted New York against Washington.
I did too.
Yeah,
I did too.
Because I'm fuck Washington, dude. Like, I don't even care if I'm wrong at this point. It's about a statement of like there is no fucking way you can have as talented players as you do on the Washington Justice and just poorly coach them into this failure. Like,
this is so fucking good.
What?
They're playing Toronto this week.
Oh my god! I'm predicting nobody. I'm actually going to. I'm actually when we have to do this prediction on the desk, I'm precursoring it now. I'm gonna tell Hex I don't want to predict either. I'm not gonna do it.
Oh my god.
The APAC games launch up as well. Let's get into our predictions. Let's get into some preds. So first of all, we need to take a look at the viewer prediction. So we're gonna start with what did the Timmies go for here? So. Hello, little Timmy. Hi, how did you do?
Hey, buddy.
You went for the Mayhem.
So a little bit of an amendum here. If you go to our community page, it does say that they picked Spitfire, but before the match occurred, it was like 45-55.
So the viewers were trying to cheat by rigging the vote after the result had already come in.
Jesus.
Wow. Little cheating viewers, huh?
How dare you, Timmy?
I mean, still got better Preds than me, I think, though. 2-2, 50% better than me. But we're keeping our eye on you, all right? We're keeping our eye on you. Let's take a look at our stats, because I'm not looking forward to this. I took some punts, and they didn't work.
Hey,
Johnny.
Look at Johnny.
No, shot. 6-0.
There we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
See it.
What a beast.
Yeah, but your record's the same. Welcome to the High Record Club.
Welcome. Ian Avast. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
We have Wyatt on the Valorant show, and he keeps asking me, like, who won? Who won in Overwatch League? Because he keeps doing the pick'ems. Apparently, his pick'em rate's through the roof. We just need to swap shows, I think. He can come and host this one. So, let's have a look. The first game that we're going to be predicting this week, we're going to do some of the APAC games, because they're launching up again for the Midseason Madness. We have a decent idea of what the meta's going to look like, I think. Who really knows when it comes to APAC? So let's start things off with a big game. It is the Seoul Dynasty playing against Shanghai Dragons.
Ooh.
Now that is surprising. Seoul Dynasty looking incredible recently. Incredible. And 3 of us are still going with Shanghai, with only Connor believing in Seoul. I feel like the Seoul pick is almost the default, or it maybe should be after the results of the kickoff clash.
No, if you're a meta Marvin, the Seoul pick is actually the wrong pick. Shanghai should actually probably be the better pick when you look at the meta right now.
So why have you gone with Seoul?
Why have I gone with Seoul? Here, I'm going to tell you why. Because I made a commitment that if Seoul did a really amazing kickoff clash and they look like they fixed all their issues, and it looks like their their one take strategy was working, I would have to believe in them. And after how dominant they looked, and after how Smurfs looks on where I feel confident that he can, because I know he can play ball. I know we'll be able to play the Sigma.
Can he?
Yeah, I think he can play Sigma. I'm pretty certain there's been people talked about how he can play
better than
Sigma.
Void.
Maybe not better than Void, but the thing, it doesn't have to be better. He just has to be equivalent. Let his team do the rest, right? So
just be equivalent to Void.
Just be equivalent to Void. But I mean, I'm just saying, I'm believing in this squad. I think they fixed. I think their tank strategy is working. I think they have options on board where they could also bust out Winston or even Rush on certain maps where it makes sense. You know?
Did you just say Winston?
There are some maps where Winston could make sense still. Some. I'm not saying a lot, but some. But they can still push out Rush, right? Yeah, and it would still work out. And I like, and they have an amazing DPS line for this. And I think and Vindime, I think, is a great pick for right now because of the Brigida and things like that. The main question mark is where does Creative look like? But I think Creative's had looks where he's been solid on things that aren't Ana. But I'm feeling still pretty confident over for them. It's just a confidence thing.
Watching Fitz play against Lip on Sojourn, if there's a Sojourn battle, would be incredible. I'm hoping
it's gonna be so good
every day of the week. Are we just meta Marvins? I know that was the majority of my decision. Was just I know that they're incredible at poke kind of styles.
Yeah, I think they're gonna dominate. I think they're gonna look amazing. I would even go out on a limb and just be like, I could, most definitely just see Shanghai Dragons winning Midseason Madness. I haven't even seen them play. I just know they're gonna be great.
Here's my question: would you rather see them play majority Void Sigma, majority Fate Ball? Where do you think they should be leaning?
Void Sigma.
Or is it
not even a question?
Yeah. Void Sigma. I think they can play both. And here's the thing that I'm looking at as well is they just buffed Zenyatta so that you can play more aggressive. Izayaki is gonna just be a psychopath, just running it down. I think he's gonna have crazy impact.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on from the top of the table down to the bottom of the table in APAC. We have the 2 organizations that are doing some fucking bonkers shit this week. It's the Valiant playing against the Charge. And presuming this match happens and doesn't blow itself to pieces, we've got 3 Preds for the Valiant here with Jonathan.
I don't know if I like my pick anymore after having this episode.
Jonathan, the sole Guangzhou Charge player. I don't feel like there's a morale advantage for either of these teams. I mean, Guangzhou have gotten rid of a player that was permanently benched anyway. Who the hell knows how that's going to affect them? For the Valiant, I mean, what? They got less money in their pockets, but they say they're happy.
Marv 1's playing, right?
Is he?
Marv 1 is going to be, isn't he going to be using the GoFund money and playing in this match?
He has some Sigma experience.
I'm pretty sure he's going to be in, and he can play Sigma. His Sigma's good, and he is an actual main tank player besides that. So realistically, across the board, Valiant should probably be the better team. It should be the better team. It's just the question is, are they gonna pass out of their desk from malnutrition, right? Because they've been eating ramen for the past 20 weeks. So well, I don't know.
Guangzhou charges Herbalife, so they're sorted.
Yeah, dude, this league is just something else.
We fucking lost. I don't even want to talk about this game.
To be fair,
fuck
like
it. I don't care who wins.
Sponsors aren't that crazy to me. I think traditional sports sponsors are just as bad.
Oh, traditional sports ones are absurd.
Yeah.
Absolutely absurd.
Yeah, we're esports. We must be way more finely tuned and reputationally good with our sponsorships compared to traditional sports that has way larger.
I'm gonna have so much morality when I don't get paid.
Oh yeah, I love our little child game morality clauses we got going on. Can I just say about the Guangzhou Charge quickly? By the way, I think this meta actually caters to them quite well. I think if they can put Krong on the Sigma permanently, and Choice One and Develop is going to be a great duo for this meta. I think I'm looking forward to see Develop and see if he can play some Sojourn at a pretty good level, and then you have like Faraway.
Can I jump in on that and just highlight Rio Ball? That's probably almost certainly going to roll out on map 1.
No.
On map 1, when Rio Ball rolls out, Johnny, I want you to remember this moment because he's going to just papige and lose the game.
Let's go to the next game. It should be another heavy hitter. The Shanghai Dragons have got a great schedule this week because they also play against the Hangzhou Spark. We're all going with Shanghai here, but I want to ask the question, how reasonable is this for the Spark to get a win? They looked really good in their qualification games in the kickoff clash. They have extremely high-quality players. I mean, Shy on Sojourn, that should be enough to turn some heads, no? Like, they have star player quality.
This is upset alert. This is seriously upset alert. And considering how much Ashe they played last stage, I don't think the transition into like Sojourn Sigma competitions is too far off. So this could be a team that stylistically is already comfortable picking it up pretty quickly. And at that point, they got the skill. So could be we'll see about the Hangzhou. But Shanghai should be so good.
Was it Shock that we saw playing the Sojourn Echo comp to defend on Midtown, Point A?
Maybe. I don't like the Echo though. I think the Echo just gets picked out of the air by the Sojourn. Like we saw like Kai do it versus somebody. I can't remember exactly who it was, but like the hit scan and the predictable movement of the Echo going through the air, I think it's just difficult. I think there is a potential for upset. I just don't trust the Spark to be able to choose the right meta. Like that's been their issue for years at this point. And even in the kickoff clash, they went with something that was unique. It worked to a point, and then they made it to the playoffs and fell apart because they didn't have the right meta read. So I'm curious to keep an eye on the coaching of the Spark and the meta that they come out on more than the individual talent of them.
The last time we predicted Shanghai Dragons, all of us, was for the tournament, which they didn't do too well in. So we'll have to keep an eye on it.
Certified?
Yeah.
Certified?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shoot. I was late.
I was not. I was like, oh shit, I'm tabbed out. I'm gonna get back in real quick.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I've never seen that before.
That's new.
Plat chat certified. Shanghai are winning this game. All right, let's move on to the next one then. We've got the Dallas Fuel taking on the Florida Mayhem. Both of these teams not quite stepping up to their prior performances. And I'm taking a punt on Dallas here. I think everyone else has gone with the Mayhem. I think give it a week. Dallas will figure out how to get a little better. It doesn't give me confidence they're going to be able to compete with the top, but I don't think Mayhem are at the top either. I mean, is it wrong to say that Mayhem looked a bit weaker than they did in the qualifiers for the previous tournament too? I wasn't as impressed this week watching the Mayhem.
I think the thing that's changed is like I feel like I don't feel like they don't look as coordinated at times. I feel like they don't have the same level of like synergy. But the one thing that I said that is one of my big drawbacks for the Mayhem is that they do not have like a star-studded DPS line. Like the DPS line is generally, it's good, but it's not like carry performances generally when you watch them play. But Hydron Sojourn is actually
it was good,
kind of fucking nasty.
I think Hydron Sojourn could easily outperform the Dallas Fuel's attempts.
So that's the big thing for me is like that's one of the big weak spots here. And this is a very with Sojourn when you're playing Sojourn, if your Sojourn is owning, it's a very DPS centric like particular meta. And also I think they have I think the double flex support backline they've gone with RuPaul and the Jed is very good currently.
Is it RuPaul, like the famous drag queen?
It's RuPaul, yes.
That's so
RuPaul.
Good. That is such a
at least
fantastic
that's what I've been told. And when I asked him, he told me RuPaul. I might be misremembering honestly, but I'm pretty sure it's RuPaul. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I think their overall meta stuff looks good, and like someone still shows that he can play like all the tanks pretty well. They just don't look quite as coordinated. I think in this meta, they've lost some of like that rush, like dive, like potential that they had. So.
Yeah, I agree with the Vast. I think the way that Florida is going to lose matches in this tournament and how they did in the last one is whenever someone just out DPS diffs them. Like, if they can have a toe-to-toe, like even the London Spitfire, like I think Sparker and Shax on that Tracer Sojourn, sorry, were just like outperforming the Mayhem from time to time. And then obviously the rush composition that they can mix up, like the London Spitfire, sort of push them off guard. So I just don't think Dallas will have the firepower to deal with it, which feels ridiculous to say. But they just don't look comfortable right now.
The next game is just a travesty. It's that Toronto Defiant against Washington Justice game.
Wait, did I have to predict this? No.
I'm afraid you've gone with the Justice.
You guys are fools.
I can't do it. I can't. Can I sack this one? Can you just delete my box? I want you to delete my box because I can't. I forgot that I had to choose one, and it was
chosen it.
I couldn't
with it.
Thank you. No, I don't. I think this is going to be a shit show. The Defiant DPS lineup looks really good right now. Like Hisu and Finale are playing well, but they're just absolutely papeging around, and the Washington Justice are dead to me. So I choose to take the L.
I've made the moral stand. I've made the moral stand. I will not be fighting for Justice until Justice win like 5 or 6 good matches in a row. You know, like matches they should win and like some quality wins, like semi-consecutively, right? Like a period of excellence. Their credit score now is like a 200. I need to see like at least a 600 credit score from this team. I need them to be. We need to take their ass out of collections. They need to be paying their bills on time. Like I'm not predicting for this team ever except for like maybe against New York.
I'm on the opposite. I'm trying to find that high. I'm trying to match my sync prediction up to their peaks. I can't just. It's a sunk cost fallacy at this point. I predicted the Justice last week. They fucked me over. They weren't able to. I don't know. They didn't even play that badly. I can't be too mad about it. It wasn't like they completely collapsed in the game against Houston. But I took a punt on them. Didn't pay off. But now I feel like I've got to keep taking punts so that I hit a win, and then I can start predding against them. But I feel like this game, I just want to see an honorable Winston mirror. That's what I'd like to see from this game. Just
I think if they play an honorable Winston mirror, Defiant will win. Defiant will win the Winston mirror because, like, when they play Muse Finale, their Winston comp is legitimately good. Like, it's not
but
bad.
Not here. Like, holy shit! Come on now. Not in this meta. What are we doing? What are we doing? You can't just like rock up to Goats meta and just be like, well, they're a pretty good Road Dogg team. It's like, no, it's Winston's not meta. It doesn't matter anymore. Okay, I don't care how bad the Washington Justice are. I said this on broadcast. That Toronto Defiant performance looked like some shit from 2017. It was awful. It was horrifying. Gave me PTSD. So I don't care how bad Washington Justice are. That Toronto performance was so shit. And if you want to say like, oh, Hisu, they dominated on Circuit Real, I don't care. That was not winning Overwatch. That was Hisu popping off individually because he's like a great player, but he can't do that consistently. Not like that. So they were just playing losing Overwatch, and it sucked to see. It was so awful. Waste of time. Get out.
I love how angry you are. It's both of the teams that have been the fucking worst. We actually had a question about this earlier, and we didn't have time to dig into it because the question was like, Toronto have sucked. How do you turn this franchise around? And I was like, we don't have time to tackle that question, mate. There's no chance. All right, let's go on to our next game. This is a banger matchup, though. This is the San Francisco Shock taking on the Atlanta Reign. Fantastic performers. Ooh. We're not all going with the same here, because Connor has predded for Atlanta Reign. You've got star-studded lineups, great backlines. You've got fantastic Sojourn players here. What's the difference maker for you? Is it the Kai belief, Connor?
I have extreme Kai belief. And also I currently like the Reign, how Reign's looking to approach it from a tank perspective too. There was a point I wanted to make on Mayhem. I actually don't love the ball that much. I think the ball is like a good hero right now. I think teams can make it work, but I think having like a Sigma or a Doom fits very well in how it works. And the ball
versus like the way that teams are playing right now, it's not quite as strong because also there's nothing really to synergize with it outside of like Tracer, realistically, and Tracer's not in the strongest state, and like Echo would probably be the best, or Genji even would be the best, but like neither one of them are like, I would say, particularly strong right now. And I think Shock are like kind of big on their ball usage currently. So I don't know. I just like Rain's tank line more, like the way they're doing the rotation, and I think Kai is like legitimately just the best Sojourn in North America right now. And it's fucking crazy. Also, I've continued to fall in love with Ultraviolet like as a flex support player. I think that guy is fucking incredible. So I just like their team. I like their team right now for this meta.
Yeah. I'm not predding against a Finn Violet backline that has Proper and Kilo going crazy on hit scan pick. I'm just not predding against that team.
That match against Boston as well was like, the thing that speaks to me about that match is there's just raw confidence coming out of that roster right now. Like that wasn't winning, that was a beatdown. They like Finn was literally touching their spawn with Transcendence and like flanking into their backline just for memes and bants. And like that shows, and you can even see it in their social medias, how they feel very comfortable as a team. And I think that does improve your gameplay. Like they seem like they all believe in each other, they respect each other, and they're just fucking feeling it right now. And I think that's going to come up against the Atlanta Reign. I like Avast spread of Atlanta Reign. I think if there was ever going to be this upset, it would be in this moment. But Shocks just feels too good for me right now.
Did both teams played against Boston this week, didn't they? And Atlanta's was like, am I misremembering that?
No, you're right.
You're right.
Oh yeah, Boston went to 5.
Yeah,
Boston
went to 5 against Atlanta. Is that factoring in here as well?
That was some
it is
spaghetti dropping.
There was spaghetti. There was spaghetti. I think occasionally you're allowed. It's like when you build like you have a tolerance factor for all sort of like things that you build, like a plus or minus X%. There was a spaghetti % tolerance factor for the Atlanta Reign, and that it passed it. It passed
gluten intolerance. There was too much
fine.
spaghetti there.
It's all good. I'm not gonna let that ruin it for me.
Okay, all right. Well, let's move on to the next game then. It's, again, it should be a good one. It's the Gladiators taking on the Houston Outlaws here. Houston were the most disappointing team for Connor, so no surprise he hasn't predicted them. Nobody else going with them either. Any chance of an upset? Is the Gladiators just going to continue this dominance? They do look good.
Gladiators didn't look flawless in their games. Like they went 2-0, I think it was, but it wasn't the dominance that we saw from them in the end of the kickoff clash, right? They 3-0'd the Vancouver Titans, but Vancouver did play them somewhat close, at least for the level that we hold Vancouver Titans at. And the Paris Eternal, they dropped a map. So I'm not going to say that this is like Gladiators are just flat the best team in NA right now, but they should be able to work it out. They have great coaching. They have the flexibility of Reiner. I think they'll be fine, and this should be an easy jump for the Houston Outlaws, but it's not just a flat 3-0 done and dusted. If the Dante Doomfist can catch them off guard, it could work.
And also, Merritt had a pretty good Sojourn against Vancouver.
That's true.
But that was the only like great pop-off game we've seen from Merritt so far this season, where he like dominated, where he had like a really star performance kind of game. So if he can carry that momentum over to the Gladiators match, that's great for the Outlaws. But I think doing that against the Vancouver Titans is a bit different from doing it against the LA Gladiators. So I'm not expecting Merritt to pop off, but if he can, and he does that consistently, Houston is going to be a very good team this stage.
Our final match to predict is the Boston Uprising taking on the Paris Eternal, a game at the bottom of the Western Conference.
Ooh.
And
Wow.
only Connor going with Boston Uprising. The rest of us going with the Paris Eternal.
I didn't go with
Connor,
Boston Uprising.
Connor.
I didn't go with Boston Uprising.
Sorry, Custa. In my head, Custa, Connor, Custa, Scott is going with the Boston Uprising. The rest of us going with the Paris Eternal here. Let's start with your Boston belief, the professional organization. Is it the 5 mapper that they played against Atlanta that's given you the hope? Do you like the ball that they've been playing? What is it?
I honestly can't even really tell you like exactly what it is. Like Paris do look somewhat good. I'm trying to think of like why I believe in Boston Uprising, and I can't even really give you a good response. Like Punk on the Sigma, I like the way he plays. I think that they have a somewhat good idea of how they're playing. I would prefer them to not play Itzel at all and just play Punk everywhere, but hey, you can't win them all. They also can't shoot themselves in the foot because they play MCD and Crimzo at the same time, so they can't sub them out mid-map if they're both playing. And I just think they have some good moments. Yeah, no, I can't give you too much more than that, other than the fact that I'm not in love with Paris Eternal right now.
This will be Paris again playing with the American DPS line, right? Which
looked good.
Yeah.
Which was nice. I mean, Dove was a good Widowmaker, solid Tracer. I also think the continuing meta-wise, the meta is very good for their backline and their tank player. So across the board, it's like this is probably arguably like one of the worst metas potentially for Wub, because I don't think his Sojourn is like amazing. But yeah, I think they're pretty good, and I just don't feel confident about Boston's player rotation right now. So
I think these are the games Paris have to win to start trending on the up.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think Paris is the better like neutral team. Like if you just ask me, like, you know, if they play Miracoms, like who would win, I think Paris would do it. But even though Boston looked so bad against the Shock, I do think that this May pick of it theirs, I do think there's something to it. Like against a team like the Paris Eternal, you could surprise them. You could catch them off guard with the May pick, and like maybe Vestola doesn't positionally adapt accordingly and, you know, gets caught off guard, and then you snowball based on that. No pun intended. So I think the May pick could be an interesting kind of thing for the Boston Uprising moving forward against some of these middle of the pack or lower end teams.
Also, Boston should have won a map versus Shock. They should have won that Rid 66. That was a hard fucking throw. That was like a really bad throw on that map. And they also weren't playing Sojourn as well. So I assume if Boston does their research and they play it right, like they should be able to improve, in my opinion. But maybe I'll be disappointed in the professional organization.
Okay, well, that does it for our match predictions. That leaves us with our final topic of the day, the most important topic of the day, which is Bren's Player of the Week. Haven't spoken to Bren, didn't give him even the opportunity here, but I think he'll be happy with who I've selected, which is British-born. I was going to say plays for the British team, but absolutely not the case. Doesn't play for London Spitfire at all. I'm not going for Backbone. It is Kai. Sojourn, pop off, just looking nuts. It was so fun to watch the Sojourn players in general play this week. It's just absurd, the shots that they're hitting. But I swear that railgun's fucking busted. It's just, the headshots are just outrageous. But yeah, Kai's Sojourn this week was gargantuan. And he deserves a lot of credit. He's been a much overlooked player in terms of his success in previous years. And I think he was a little slow off the mark this season as well. So it's good to see him right back up at the top where you expect him to be. So there's Kai, Bren's Player of the Week.
I think he's happy to be off Soldier. Soldier doesn't have these level of play potential, right? Like, you know, Sojourn just going absolutely crazy. And I think a big thing that stands out to me is, you know, we can hype him up on Reddit and we can just read the kill feed, but when you have other pro players tweeting about how good Kai is at this hero, like that's a level of like mutual respect, and I think that goes a long way. Like there was Xe, I saw Xe and a bunch of other pro players talking about like how good Kai Sojourn was in that game, and like that's to me like a standout moment as a player.
Did anyone the Chuck E. Cheese chat?
I had to bust it out just for I stopped doing it this season, but I think there was like, obviously I understand there's production reasons for why it happens, but he didn't get player of the match. And I'm like, I had to bust out the Chuck E. Cheese like after that one, because he literally had double the amount of like final blows as like the next two DPS players.
Yeah,
it was just insanity.
Crazy. What was I going to say there as well? What did you finish off by saying? You said when other players give you props, Custa. Do you have a notable moment when that happened in your games? You know, Jonak sent you a message and go, damn, you're so good.
Well, actually, no, I do. 2018, before the season began, Jaehong and Toby, they were asked, who is the best Moira player you think right now? And I don't know if they were joking, but they said Custa on the Dallas Fuel. And I was like, hell yeah, Jaehong and Toby think I'm great at Moira. They might have been taking the piss at that point, but it did happen. There is a recording somewhere of that.
It's tough to tell when sometimes they're trolling. I got a 2017 moment of that when we were scrimming LG. And I booped. Who was their Rhine player on LG? Does anyone remember? I can't even remember. It was like the original LG, not LG Evil, but LG Loyal. It was like all the French guys. Like it had.
Super Pluke.
Super Pluke, maybe. Yeah, it was what? It was the team with Super Pluke and their hits. I can't remember, but they were like.
I can't believe I remember that spot.
That was impressive,
yeah, in like 2017, I got a good boop, and they were like, "Great boop!" And like once, and I was like, everyone, they all sucked my dick after that moment. I was like, "Let's go!" So that was my one player pop off moment. Was in 2017 versus LG.
Wow,
I had a few in 2016.
Let's go.
I don't remember them.
The times have changed. All right, that does it for us with episode 134. When we come back next week, we'll have APAC games to discuss. We'll have North American games to discuss. And hopefully it won't be as Drama Tuesday filled. But that was a chock block episode that you got delivered straight to your front doorstep. So enjoy that one. Subscribe to the show if you want to watch more of it, or if you just want to, keep up with what we're up to. And we'll see you next time. Bye.